I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerate sleuths of the night. We gather to boldly go where others have refused. Welcome to the DT show, you salty mofos.
A man accused of killing 4 college students is behind bars, and he has ties to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. State police say 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger was arrested this morning at a home in Chestnut Hill Township.
I can't find any case law that would support that idea. That somehow a warrant would be needed for DNA left at a crime scene.
We are expecting to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
So, the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
So, get your popcorn ready and your choice of drink. Get your butt on your seat. Like, comment, and subscribe for a treat. Here we go. It's time for the show. The Drunk Turkey Show.
What is up, you salty mofos? Welcome back to the DT show. I'm Daniel, and today I think we got a pretty good show for you. We have a returning guest, Dr. Vona. She's been on before. She helps us understand the world of psychiatry and psychology and everything in between. Today we're going to be talking about the Bryan Kohberger case and what we learned about in this most recent hearing. But before we get into the topic and before we bring today's guest, I want to remind you guys of our partnership with DataSeal. If you guys have any concerns with your privacy, whether it be your name, your address, phone number, religious preference, voting preference out there, check out our partner DataSeal. Link is in the description. It's also going to be in the comments section pinned at the top. Get a 5% discount. Also, guys, it's going to be also linked in the description. It's also going to be in the comments, the whole 9 yards. We got a new t-shirt. Make sure you guys go out there and get your official DT show Idaho House Bill 37. This one is just released. You guys can go and pick that up. That logo you're not going to see anywhere else. I created it myself with, obviously, the look of the Idaho House of Representatives seal. But I went in there, adjusted it a little bit, kind of changed it, tweaked it a little bit. So you'll see that there. And on the back, it's even the best part is the back, the firing squad unit. Now, so make sure you guys go get that. Go take care of that. If you guys and gals, we have the the eraser back, and same thing, front and back. I ordered mine already. I can't wait to get it. You'll be seeing me carrying or wearing my Idaho House Bill 37 firing squad unit shirt. Make sure you go and get yours today. It's in the link. Go do that. Now, without further ado, we have today's guest, Dr. Vona. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Hello, everybody.
I'm doing well.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you could be back. It's been a great time talking to you. Every time that we've had you on, we've had a lot of good, positive feedback. So I'm glad you could make it back. Did you get a chance to watch the entire hearing on April 9th?
I did. I yelled at the TV the first time, and then the second time I was a little bit more chill.
You were a little bit more chill. So what got your blood pressure going? What made you yell at the TV at first?
Well, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. I couldn't imagine how he was able to sit there and when she started talking about, it's not Ann Taylor. I can't remember the other female's name that on the defense, but she was the one that was up there and she was talking about the disorders and stuff like that. And she said about how, and I was so happy the judge caught her. He said, "Are these things that like are from his doctorate program?" And she said, "No, they're from his childhood." I was like, "Oh my God." So she was bringing up comments like about how he's fidgety and stuff. You
Yeah.
have kids, they're fidgety. So I thought that was great that Hitler was able to ask that question, like, is this from his doctorate program? And she said, well, this is from when he was younger, but I don't know how he sat there and let them talk about how IQ and stuff, like for someone that wants to be seen as so smart, I don't know.
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. Your audio is coming in a little bit muffled. I'm not sure what happened since beforehand. It's just I still hear you. I'm trying to make it a little bit louder on my end, but it's coming in a little muffled. I'm not sure if the microphone is covered, whatever's holding it.
I think it's because I disconnected the microphone because I disconnected my computer, but maybe I can try to reconnect it while we're talking.
Okay, sounds like a plan. You know, one of the things that I think everybody has been kind of pointing out is the fact that Bryan Kohberger was sitting a lot lower than normal. I mean, there was his entire attorneys, all of them, all females, all when they stand up significantly shorter than him, were either his height or taller than him. What do you think's the purpose behind that?
I think that that's obviously to show that he's not capable of doing this because he looks very small and he looks very frail and very thin. And how could he do such a crime? I was looking, and the chairs are so noticeably different that you literally could see him sitting next to his attorneys that his chair is down. I'm like, how is the jury not going to see that? Now, I do know from going through trials from a friend of mine that was murdered when we were 29. I went through 2 month-long trials. And I do know that that is done on purpose because I remember being there before the judge came in and the defense attorneys lowering their seats. So I remember this was years ago asking, why do you do that? And I got the answer. And today I feel like they're doing it a little bit too much. Do you think so?
I do. I mean, there's been some questionable things, in my opinion, when it comes to the behavior of his defense attorneys. I mean, there's been a lot of touching and fixing of his wardrobe and things of that nature, like he's a child and he can't do it himself. One of the claims is that he has OCD, and I'm not sure if we actually got to speak on this the last time, if this was out since the last time that we spoke, but there was a selfie that was put out there. And one of the things that I noticed is that his shirt is buttoned up all the way to the top. In court, his shirt wasn't buttoned up all the way to the top. Does that mean anything, or am I just being nitpicky about his appearance?
I don't think you're being nitpicky. But I do think that there's a reason why it's buttoned up here and not at court. So I do think that the reason behind it is strategic. So I think that at court they want him to look not as rigid, I guess. This shows like rigidity to me. You see, like
Mhm.
how, and we both talked it before about like Bateman and stuff. So who knows if he's not purposefully right here trying to pose as like a character, if you will.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. He was noticeably shorter in his chair. He had his shirt unbuttoned, and he wasn't just sitting there. He was moving around quite a bit, more than I've ever seen him move around in court. Um, you, I hate to say it's an act, but
It's an
what
act.
what do you think? I mean, it's not something that was done before, at least.
It's an act. And I also noticed how they say about like his stares and stuff, but I don't know about you. I have ADHD and I'm supposedly on the, spectrum too. I have a doctorate degree. I don't know why I don't know. This whole thing was just making me mad. But as far as I'm sitting in the chair, he stares, but I feel like he's able to keep attention and focus. He doesn't fidget. You don't see his hands. They must have told him to stop sitting like this, like how we noticed the last time with his fingers up like this.
Yeah.
Remember, he was like, they must have told him to stop doing that because I don't know if you noticed, but the entire time during the hearing, his hands were under the table this time. So
Hmm.
I think that was strategic as well. I think everything you're doing is strategic, down to not being able to say psychopathy during trial.
Now, do you think he was hiding his hands? Because in this image here, there's a, everybody's been looking at his hands. Everybody's been noticing his fingers look swollen. There's potentially a cut there. Let me get this other image I have of it. There's some bruising, in my opinion, underneath the bottom part of his hand. And as I explained earlier, let me pull it up real quick. And I think this is important because, is it this one? Yes. All right, give me a sec. All right, so this is his left hand, and to me, that doesn't look like shadowing. That looks like bruising on the bottom of his hand. Now, the reason why I think this is important, and I think that the defense is claiming that there's two weapons involved, there's two persons involved, right? One of the things that I'm thinking is, well, let's go back to the scene. The scene is you have two young ladies in the bed asleep, and he's entering the bedroom, surprising them. And so the bed is up against the wall. Now, he's got the ability to obviously surprise the first one fairly easily, but he's going to startle the second one. Now, in order and efforts to silence the second one quickly, you're going to have to move more ferociously and quickly. But he's got to reach over a person to do so. So in my opinion, I think you're having to switch over to your left hand to do that. And the motion that you would be doing in that scenario, climbing over somebody, is one like this, not like this or like this. It's like this. And that guard that you're going to get bruising from is going to be on the bottom of your hand. And so
From the Kabar, right? From the,
yeah, from the Kabar. And so that's what I'm seeing here.
Do you see it under here too in his thumb? I see a bruise there.
Like right here and
Yeah,
here.
maybe it was just the picture I was looking at, but I definitely saw bruising there in one of the pictures, or at least it looked like there was bruising there.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely does look like there could be some bruising there. The biggest thing to me is the fact that his fingers look very swollen and his knuckle looks very swollen, especially this first one. And it makes his
I
thumb
agree.
look smaller. And there's a lot of other images where you can see his hands now, and his thumb looks normal. It doesn't look like a little thumb compared to the rest of his hand.
I
And
think the first thing I said when we saw this last time was about his little thumb. I'm like, look how little his thumb looks. And I think you said it's probably because the rest of his hand's swollen that
yeah,
it's making his thumb look smaller. So I totally agree with that.
yeah. And so folks are pointing out that that looks like a Band-Aid of some sort. Now, the defense and the state both agree that outside of the DNA on the knife sheath, that there isn't any other DNA of Bryan Kohberger's. There was some DNA that was found underneath the fingernails of Madison Mogen, and it was 4 different persons. One of them was her, so 3 other persons. I believe that Kaylee was one of them that could not be excluded as well. Bryan Kohberger couldn't be excluded, but the state is not arguing that it's not his. The state is saying that, he was wearing clothing from toe to head, right? Tiptoe to the top of his head. And thus the reason why he didn't leave any skin cells behind. One of the other reasons that the defense is saying that there could be multiple persons is because there's a lack of defense wounds with Madison Mogen. And we know that because, well, the state is going to rebuttal that, the state's going to rebuttal that, the state is rebuttaling that the reason why she doesn't have any defense wounds is because of she was intoxicated. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the defense's arguments?
About which parts? They have so many. Don't you feel like out of any trial you've ever seen, this defense has more arguments? And I feel like a lot of their arguments are like frivolous, if you will. So I don't know which specific argument are you asking
Well,
about? Because
the argument that they have about the 2 persons, Like, do
Oh,
you think that they're gonna have because I think that's their whole argument, right? They supposedly got a tip too. There's some sort of tip about something. They're very vague about it, though. You're absolutely right.
There, it wasn't two people, you guys. I promise. I'm willing to bet anything on it. And again, I don't know this to be true, obviously, because I wasn't there. But if Bryan Kohberger, if he's the one that did this, if he had the ability to make a friend to do this crime with, he would have never had to do the crime to begin with. One of his problems is his lack of interpersonal communication skills. And I think even the defense has said that. So I don't even know that I need to say alleged to that because they're trying to say that now. I just think it's for different reasons than what they think it's for.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. What about the? So, do you think that the state can point out? I mean, well, maybe not. I'm not sure if you know this or not. I don't know if you've ever testified, but I was
I
wondering if the
have.
state. Oh, well, do you know if the state can testify to, like, for instance, he's rocking and fidgeting, and in prior hearings he wasn't.
No, I don't think they can, but I think that it is noticeable. And I think that Ann Taylor, now that this is like televised, she's clearly getting feedback from watching YouTube and other things to see what other people are saying. So I do think that this is like a practice run. Who knows if somebody's watching us right now and doesn't say, like, oh, we need to lift the chair a little bit more because it was so noticeable that people are talking about it on YouTube. Like, so I really think that she's, and again, that might be a smart thing if you're a defense attorney, is to have somebody out there listening to see what they're saying, because they do mention a few things. Again, about they said about his hands like this, they actually mentioned that in court. So somebody's watching because everybody's talking about these certain things, and then it's almost like the defense has him um, like don't do this because everybody's talking about it. So now like his hands are underneath. So I
Yeah.
think again, he's never rocked back and forth before. I looked at every single court thing just to make sure for tonight. I did my research and I've never seen him rock back and forth in court or anything like that. And he's fidgeting and stuff and doing things in court now that he has never done in the past. If you guys go back and look.
He's 28 years old. Let's just say that he does suffer from being a psychopath or sociopath, and he doesn't have these feelings of remorse. Do you think that in his 28 years of life that he could have picked up behaviors and learned behaviors to trick people into thinking that he does exhibit these features?
Oh, 1,000%. So if he has psychopathy, which is what she's trying to get them to say that he doesn't, or they're not, we're not allowed to say it at trial type thing. To
Hmm.
me, that's a huge like, why? Like, do you think maybe he could fit the bill, and that's why you're so afraid um, of the prosecution saying the word psychopathy? I read into that and I was like yelling at the TV. I'm like, she didn't say antisocial, and that's actually what it's called in the DSM. So, but I don't think the prosecution, I don't think they even need that. But one of the things that people need to know is that when somebody has a personality disorder, one of the things that they're very skilled at is becoming a chameleon with the person that they're speaking with. So when I speak with you, I mimic your behavior. When I speak with the next person, I mimic their behavior. And by doing that, I make you feel like, and again, when I say you, I don't mean you personally, but I make you feel like we're alike. You know what I mean? If you cross your leg, I cross my leg. So somebody that has a personality disorder is very skilled at these things. And I just almost to the point of where this is why I don't understand how like he must be going crazy, sitting, not going crazy. I don't want to, I have to watch my words, but it must be driving him like a little bit bananas, hearing them say all these negative things about him, even about the comments about all the people that came out after he was arrested and stuff. Like, I'm dying to know what he's thinking in his head.
I am too. I would like to know. I think that the defense or the state is trying to push those buttons. And I know he's 30. I know some people mentioned he's 30, not 28. He was 28 when he was arrested. So yeah, when he's 30 years old. But what I meant is that, he's been out living in the real world for 28 years prior to his arrest. In that time, he must have learned some things on how to wear a mask, how to cover maybe some of these disturbing behaviors that he has. The state is doing something interesting. They want to bring in a 3-day model. The defense calls it a dollhouse.
That's why I
And
just started laughing.
yeah, and it's not to scale. Do you think that could be to, because if you go back to Bryan Kohberger's writings, right, they have this investigators list of I guess, writing or what he would do if he was investigating a crime. And in there, he talks about doing a scale to model, and it'd be up to scale. I think he even put 1 foot to 1/4 inch or something of that nature. And using what system, a CAD system that he would use to develop a to scale model. Do you think that the state could be purposefully making it not to scale to mess with him or make him
Actually,
fidgety?
well, I would think that that would be brilliant if they were. Like, I would love to sit here and say, yes, I think that, but I don't. I think that when it comes to the rules of evidence and stuff, I believe that by doing it this way, they're able to make it a floor display and they're able to tie it to to people's testimony as opposed to making it evidence. So if they did the full model, it would have been evidence. By
Mhm.
doing a demonstrative, I guess it's called a demonstrative exhibit or whatever they call it, then the jury can't take it back to the deliberation room. They can only see it while it's right there on the floor. So I would like to say, yes, I think they did it as like an F you to Brian or like, a, look, we could do this too, but I really don't think so. I think it was more of a strategy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that they could have still made it to scale and not you and use it as a demonstrous exhibit to point things out at. Um, to me, I hope you're probably right. You're probably right, but part of me was like, man, Ann Taylor's talked a lot about Bryan Kohberger's behavior and how concerned they are with his behavior in front of the jury. Wouldn't something like that just kind of mess with him to the point where maybe he does have a moment where he acts out or he says something? You know what I mean?
This is the thing though, if you have a personality disorder, like in my opinion, I think we're looking at, he has enough self-control not to do that.
Hmm.
So I don't think he's jumping from the table or saying anything, you know what I mean? I think this whole thing is just a red herring to make people feel bad for him, because he has autism or, whatever they're trying, all the things that they're trying to say. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's more of that than it is anything else or it being real.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned earlier that his defense team must be watching. They clearly aren't watching the Drunk Turkey Show, and they probably should because it sounded like Judge Daniel up there instead of Judge Hippler when he was going off on Cyray's affidavit. I thought it was brilliant. What he was saying, how he broke it down. In my opinion, in that moment, it looked like Ann Taylor, it dawned on her. It clicked like, oh, there was 7 days. Like, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Um, overall, I thought that the state really kicked tail in this hearing. And I thought that the defense, although they won the fact that the term sociopath or psychopath can't be used, they really didn't win anything else. I mean, I know there's some rulings that haven't come in yet, but it doesn't look like it's going to go in their favor. How did you feel
Mhm.
about it overall?
Well, I thought that the whole thing with the Cy thing, I actually thought of you when I was watching it. I was like, oh, Daniel must be like dying over this right now because he literally says to her, um, he said about his conspiracy theory. He called it a conspiracy. He said, before you have Cy conspiracy theories. And he then also says, because I watched it like 2 or 3 times just to make sure I wasn't hearing things. He also says that like these are strong allegations that he's making, like so strong that you could be disbarred over this. So I almost feel like the judge does not appreciate the fact that like they're messing with someone's livelihood here. Like forget just the case. Like you could get somebody disbarred for doing this.
That's true. And he called, I mean, if you're Cy, you've been called a conspiracy theorist and your information junk science at this point. Like maybe perhaps it's time, to read the tea leaves and maybe perhaps find a different type of profession because it's not going to be working out for me. I
And
thought
it's
this was career ending.
yeah, and it's a shame because I think if you look at his credentials, like they were pretty good credentials. Like he could have continued working and going on Stanford. Like I just feel like he just did himself no favor by doing this. And like you said, this could be career ending for him now. Um, and like, was it worth it? You know what I mean? Everybody knows your name, but now you
I
don't have
couldn't,
any.
I couldn't believe that Ann Taylor asked the judge to imagine not having them the 7 days. I was like, are you serious? You just asked the judge to imagine not
Mhm.
having these 7 days? I'm like, what is he going to say? Oh, well, now that I've imagined this, state, you must produce this. Like, what do you think's going to happen if he imagines it?
And not just that, how does the state produce something that they don't have?
Oh
Like they're
gosh.
saying we don't have it. If they don't have it, and this is the thing, I would assume that they know the laws. Like when you do, even with counseling and stuff, like there's licensing and stuff. So if I were a lawyer and I worked that hard to be a lawyer, and this could be my job on the line, I would make sure that if I had something that I'd give it over like I'm supposed to. So I believe the prosecution when they say there's just nothing to give. So I think so does the judge, and that's why he called it a conspiracy theory and said you better watch because he's making allegations here that could really hurt somebody's entire livelihood.
You know, I agree. And those allegations were pretty harsh, and the judge was absolutely right. But to me, I think the worst part of it is the fact that Ann Taylor was refusing to even just take accountability. Once she figured it out, once it clicked that there was a 7-day thing, she asked the judge to imagine, and then even after that, she asked the judge if she can still bring on Ray. Like, no accountability, no, like, oh, okay, you know what, I was wrong. Now that we know the scope of the 7 days, we're going to remove, or this motion to compel, I'm going to sit my butt down. No, she continued to argue, and that tells me that, like, she's willing to argue things that she, even in the moment of facing the truth, that she's going to argue it regardless. And all these times that she said that he was innocent or this or that or anything, to me just doesn't mean anything anymore, because of the fact that she's in the moment of truth still willing to just sit there and try to bring on Ray when there's no reason to. You know what I mean?
Well, there kind of is though for her, right? Because all she has to do is convince one person that he's not guilty. So I think for her, it's like, what does she have to lose? She has to do everything that she can um, to try and help Ryan in the situation. But I think one of the things that scares me about what you're talking about is that we've now been watching her for years, right? The jury has not. So I fear that her lack of guilt or remorse or like embarrassment or whatever, I hope that that doesn't um sway the jury in any way because she does sound very sure about the things that she says, even though we now know, like you said, a lot of the things she says no longer holds weight with you because you know it to be different now. But I just hope
Mhm.
that the trial's long enough that the jury sees that too, and that they don't just see like somebody strong in their convictions of what they're saying, because she only needs to convince one person.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, she definitely does. I just don't think she's going to have that opportunity to. I mean, like, at the end of the day, her alibi, or his alibi, even the judge asked him, like, who's gonna present that he was riding around if he doesn't testify? And I
Ray,
doubt
right?
Ray is going to be up there to say anything at this point.
No, but I think that's what they were trying to allude to.
Well, Ray was only going to allude to about 7 minutes. It was a partial cooperation. It wasn't anything. And even at that, it really doesn't point at anything, because although Ann Taylor is like saying, oh, there's these 7 minutes and a car can travel such and such distance. Yes, there was this 7 minutes, but if you go back to the PCA, Bryan Kohberger's car was still accounted for up until 2:53 that morning because it was on surveillance. And so if you have it on surveillance till 2:53, then in reality, there's only 1 minute there of missed time. And, the distance that it would have taken, even if he continued to go straight and didn't turn on SR 270, there's another road that heads through Sunshine, which is only 4 miles off of 270. I mean, you're literally driving 6 miles, and it takes 7 minutes to get there. And that would have put him right
Mm-hmm.
there at 302 in front of the Floyd cannabis shop. I mean, it is what it is.
It is, and I think Gray Hughes did a good job, like of showing that too, right? When if you look at his stuff, and you do too. But the other day when I was watching the two of you, like I almost feel like they should, like you said, they should be watching you because there's some stuff here that I feel like the prosecution could use. I feel like when you explain it and when Gray explained it the other night, it was almost like, oh, duh, like everything's accounted for. So it almost is like confusing at how Ann Taylor puts so much weight on some things that just seem like there's an answer to them. Does that make
Right.
sense? Like that just doesn't make sense to me. How did you feel about the family thing about them wanting the family with the testifying and how they're pretty much letting everybody know that the family still backs him?
Well, that was the thing, right? That's what they wanted out there, was that the family is backing him, because I think a lot of people have questioned, like, hey, his own family doesn't even back him up. His own family's going to testify against him, and it sounds like that's going to be the case. And it may not be something that they want to testify against them. I don't think anybody wants to testify against their son. It doesn't mean that they aren't, and that doesn't mean that they haven't fully cooperated, which they have stated they had in their only statement that they've released up until this point. Now, I don't consider what Ann Taylor has stated in trial or in the hearing the other day as part of um, their statement. Their only statement says that they have fully cooperated with law enforcement, and I think they have. I think that they know some things. You have some warrants that are looking at specific dates, between March 20th and March 30th, 2022, for the knife sheath and sharpener on Amazon, and the purchase of a gift card, which I brought up. I told everybody about this gift card being a thing back about a year ago in May. I believe it was May 14th, 2024. I brought up that Bryan Kohberger purchased this Kabar knife using a gift card.
That was so
And
good.
I just deduced it. I mean, it's a modern way of doing it. Plus, at the end of the day, if he's going to try to hide his tracks, and they had warrants all over America for Kabar knives and other knives through Amazon and a bunch of other places, and that's not what caught him. So obviously, he purchased it through some other means that wasn't traceable back to him, whether it be by cash, or if he was going to do it online, it was going to be through you know, through a gift card. And I said this back in May of 2024. He purchased it through a gift card, and it's psychic Daniel. I call myself, and I'll say a little bit more. I'm going to predict that they found it off of that fire stick in his the purchase of the K-bar of the gift card was found on that fire stick that they pulled from his tower inside of his apartment complex.
I bet
Mm,
you're right. I
mm,
also,
so-
when people were thinking that maybe he could have ordered the DoorDash and not been the DoorDash driver, but possibly have ordered it, I also said, because people were like, but how would he do that? It would come back to him. And I said, not if you bought a gift card and bought it with a gift card. So I think that he really thinks that he outsmarted everybody, but he's made so many stupid mistakes.
Yeah, the only thing about that is that the gift card can be traced back, like similar to like Rex Humerman. So Rex Humerman purchased a gift card, and
Mm.
this was one of the reasons why I brought it up too. And well, that can be traced back. So, like for instance, um, I'm going to make up a scenario. This has nothing to do with Bryan Kohberger. If somebody wanted to go purchase a weapon and they utilized a Amazon gift card, well, that purchase is still going to be there. That gift card is still going to be there, and they're going to be able to trace that gift card to Amazon and then to his account. So, I mean, that's basically what they did, anyways. And that's the way you trace it back. So, what do you think
But what
about
if you
them
were doing,
saying? Oh, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was just gonna say, what do you like? What about if you bought a gift card for like a DoorDash type thing with cash? Would they still be able to trace it back? And then if like you ordered using that gift card,
On a DoorDash, I would assume so. I mean, if you had an Amazon gift card number, you're going to be able to trace back where it originated from. Your best bet, I'd hate to say this to give anybody any ideas, is to buy a gift card cash at like a Walmart, and you're going to go in there with a
that's what I
COVID
was thinking.
mask. Yeah, you're going in there with a COVID mask, and you're going in there with covering from head to toe, gloves, the whole nine yards. So that way,
Baseball
all
cap.
those cameras, and you're probably gonna have to walk there. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You're gonna have to walk to the Walmart. You're gonna have to take this weird trip, go through a park. I mean, because
Nobody
cameras
listen
are
to,
everywhere, right?
yeah,
Because
right.
there's
Nobody do that.
nobody do that, but I mean, at the end of the day, there's just so many cameras and stuff. I mean, it's like that Luigi Mangione guy. I mean, he went through a park, he went through this, and at the end of the day, it took him a while, but they were able to piece together where he went, which direction he traveled, when he came out, how he came out. And so, eventually, if they're caught, or if law enforcement is catching on quickly enough and grabbing these video surveillances and stuff, those things should be preserved. But
I hope so.
but yeah, no, I think that uh at the end of the day, it's just crazy. But what do you think about them blaming AI for the purchase?
That was so ridiculous. I'm like, how stupid do they think we are? Like with the whole click thing. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that the judge jumps in. So I feel like the judge a lot of times doesn't even like he doesn't even you don't even need the prosecutor to argue that because the judge literally is like everybody knows that when you buy something from Amazon, you click on it, you put it in your cart. So I just felt like, and he even mentions the same type of thing when he says about because she keeps bitching about all the data that she has to go through, and he says a lot of the same thing there too, and he's like a lot of that could be movies and stuff like that. So I think she's just grasping at straws at this point just to say that she did it so that if on appeal, you know what I mean? Because I think something I was like reading the law, and if she doesn't bring it up during the trial or something like that, then they can't bring it up on appeal. So I think she's doing her job because it's a DP case. So I guess she has to like put everything out there. But at the same time, I don't know. I think she's doing the most now. Like she needs this, she's doing too much. Don't
I
you
mean,
think?
she doesn't have anything else. You know what I mean? Like,
He
we
straight
can,
told her, the judge said to her, you should hire more law clerks. I almost died. I almost fell off the bed. I was like, wait, what did he say? And he's like, you should order more law clerks to look through the information then. And I was like, he's right. And she has had enough time. And the trial doesn't even start for a few months. So hire some law clerks and get on it.
yeah. One of the other things that I think speaking of the knife and stuff, one of the things that I think I've been able to deduce, this is the psychic Daniel going on, is that the knife is somewhere that Bryan Kohberger can't get to. So I think he disposed of it, obviously, like maybe perhaps threw it in a river or something. And the reason why is because he was looking at knives again. Now, I think that he would think that he cleaned up his car. How could you not clean up a knife? One item. So if he's looking for knives again, and I'm not necessarily thinking he's looking at it to replace the knife that he's missing, but if he's looking at knives and maybe perhaps he's got another murder spree in mind, it might be because he can't get a hold of that other knife. And it might be like, for instance, in the Snake River or in some other place that in a canyon somewhere he can't get to. What do you think?
I think he buried it somewhere, in my opinion. But yes, I do think that it's somewhere that he could get back to because you have to remember that would be not a trophy, but it would be part like almost a trophy. I guess for him it could be a trophy. But I think that there would be some form of attachment there, and because he has very little attachments, I would assume that this knife probably means a lot to him, especially if he was the one that did this. So I do not think that he just like chucked it in a river somewhere. I think he like buried it somewhere that thinking that if he got away with it, that he'd be able to go back and retrieve it at a later date.
Well, I mean, if that was the case, why look for another knife?
Maybe so that if they ever did come to him, you know what I mean? Like, who knows? What if he was going to use the other? Who knows? It could have just been to replace it. You know what I mean? He could have just thought, like, if they come to me and they say, well, you have a knife and whatever. And he's like, yeah, well, here it is. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I guess we don't really know what's going on in his head. Or could he have just been ordering his next knife? I don't know.
Yeah. See, for me, I think that, if he's ordering another knife, if he buried it, if he was like Israel Keys, for instance, who would bury his kill kit, then, he had multiple kill kits. That's one thing, for different areas. Maybe perhaps he was planning on committing a crime in a different area than where he left it. That's possible. But, for me, I think he had every intention of going back to Washington. He changed his license plate. He changed his driver's license. I think he was going to fight the firing. And, so he had every intention on going back. Had he buried it out there somewhere, I think he would have had access to it. To me, I think
Right.
he must have put it somewhere he don't have access to, whether he destroyed it and put it in acid. Supposedly he broke into the chem lab. I don't know what can destroy, a knife like that. I'm not a chemist, but I'm sure there's some sort of material that could.
I was trying to think, and I'm like, what could destroy a knife? And the only thing I could think of is my husband's a union iron worker, and the only thing I could think of is like welding it down, like melting it. I don't know how else. I don't know if any chemical could break down a Kabar. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. So, like you said, even if he threw it in a river somewhere, it has to be somewhere. They just didn't find it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I agree.
I assumed he buried it or he hid it somewhere that night, and he went back the next day because he was out in that area for about 5 hours, in Johnson, Washington. area. That's when his phone turned off the second day, and so that's little things here and there. So let's get some questions in real quick. I'm gonna get to the super chats first. D comes in saying, "Did you hear the 911 part, or hearing both state and defense read from the GI transcript and say DM saw XK briefly before calling EA and HJ? So confused by this. I have heard the 911 call, and I do not recall Dylan saying that she saw Xana briefly before calling."
I kind of do.
Okay, where at?
So I feel like in the if you look in the 2 days ago or whatever, I feel like at one part Anne read something because I thought the same thing. I was like, oh damn, did she just say that she saw her on the floor? But at one point, I think Anne says that she like runs and she saw her on the floor, but that she just assumed that she was passed out. So I think that this person, unless we both, me and the person, heard it wrong, that could be possible as well. But I
No, I
did hear
heard
the
that
same thing.
too. I
Oh, you
heard
did?
Ann
Okay.
say that, but I don't hear that in the 911 call.
No, me either.
So
Not
that
in the
was the thing.
911
Like,
call.
yeah, I didn't hear it in the 911 call, but I did hear Ann say that. Let's see. Natalie James comes in saying OCD would not allow him to post a selfie with his collar flipped up, with his back on his selfie. Also, the white knuckles in the selfie depict a firmly clutched hand. He's a troubled guy. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Put a couple of stars, guys. Kohberger had something to hide in that shower picture.
In his
Interesting.
hand? That's what I said that time. Remember, I said it looks like he's holding something in his hand.
That's true. That is true. Deb says, right off the bat, what did you think about BK moving around, fidgeting, making facial expressions, this hearing compared to earlier hearings?
I think that he was acting and that he was doing what he thought that he should be doing for those disorders. Again, I think he thinks that he's smarter than everybody else. And I think that we do need to give him credit. Like you said before, he was able to get rid of all the evidence in the car and stuff like that. So he's not as like impaired as they would like us to believe he is, right? Um, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I think the fidgeting and stuff, like we mentioned before, I really do think it's an act. I think there was one time where one of his college mates said that he was joking around and they were taking a photo, and he said, "All right, be serious." And in an instant, he went serious. And
I have
so, I
that
mean,
photo.
I think that, um, as I mentioned before, he may have practiced wearing a mask multiple times. He's got a lot of time on his hands right now to practice fidgeting and doing all these things.
And to look up what it would mean to have that developmental coordination disorder and stuff like that, which I don't even know why they even brought that into this because that was a disorder of childhood. But he's probably like looking these things up to see like what they're supposed to be doing. Or like Anne said, when he looks like this or he looks like that. I'm like, I've never heard a court proceeding before like where they almost like shame the defendant and is like, we need to warn everybody that if he's staring, it's because of this, that, or the other. Like, I just don't even know of another case where that even came up. Do you? Like, that just
No,
seems so out of the ordinary to me. Like, huh? Like, what?
no, I don't. No, I don't.
Mm-mm.
Sirius comes in saying, if you have concerns about your home and address, personal information, and check out Data Seal, get a 5% discount. 100%. Look, this is what I've spoken about earlier. This was May 14th, 2024. So this is just a little bit under a year ago. This is about an hour and 1 minute and 22 seconds. Young Daniel there. Let's see what I have to say for myself. No, and hold on. Let me go back a little bit further. I was taking calls, I think.
That would be interesting.
Is it muted?
I was going to say I don't hear it, but I didn't know if it was because I was on my phone.
Okay, yeah. I think it might be muted. Let me. I put on there. Jesus, it's always doing this to me.
It happens to me too. Everything works until I need it to.
All right, now I know it's going to work for sure. But let me. I was taking calls for this one. And where am I at? All right, let's see. I honestly don't know what happened there, but she seemed very respectful to me here, and we'll have her back on. Mother of Cycle Breakers 199 says, I wonder if his parents recognized the sheath. Well, here's what we know, right? We know that there was a warrant for Amazon a long time ago, and this warrant was before the arrest of Bryan Kohberger, and it was before the IGG and all that other stuff, came in on December 19th. They had the results of that warrant before, and none of those knives and knife sheaths pointed at Bryan Kohberger at that time. So what does that tell us? Well, also we have to know. We also have to believe. We have heard rumors that law enforcement has found a receipt or a proof of purchase of a sheath and Kabar knife from Bryan Kohberger. Now, if he didn't show up on the, on that other warrant, how are they attributing this to him? He must have either done this by one or two ways. Either he purchased that item through a relative, which I feel, or a friend, which is possible. I think the relative aspect, probably not so much. I think that if a relative of his came up as purchasing one of the Kabar knives and they find out, but they go through it and they find out that somebody who purchased a Kabar knife in Pennsylvania has a relative in Washington and Pullman, Washington, they're going to look into that. The other thing is, maybe perhaps he purchased it secretly. Maybe he used a burner account, burner name, gift card, something to that effect, or a something to like that effect. And if he did do that, there should be some sort of evidence of that. I mean, you can kind of track down that's just one time. I'll be honest with you guys. I may have known about the gift card thing. I may have known about it for a while, but because that was one time. I've said it multiple times. I even said it on another live that he bought it through the Amazon Fire Stick. That's just my belief. That's my belief. But that's one of the times over a year ago where I deduced it and said that he bought it through using a gift card. And come to find out, a year later, wouldn't you know it, a gift card was used. Maybe I know a little bit about what I'm talking about.
Psychic Daniel.
I knew it then. I knew it. I slept and it came to me. Like I'm saying, I knew it back then. I've always known about it. Cleo says, I heard, but not convinced that the button was to show his mom he was able to button the top button. What?
Okay, I don't know what that's about, but that does make me think about something. So she said was able to button the top button. If he had that developmental coordination disorder, you could argue that it would be hard for him to use his fine motor skills, which are the muscles of your fingers and toes. So I could argue that, how did you button your shirt? So
That's
that
true.
actually is a good point there. I don't know about the mom thing, but about buttoning the shirt, that's actually a good point.
Great point. Truth Exposed says, do you notice that how he's trying to sit slumped so his shoulders don't look so broad?
He's like
I
that.
didn't notice that.
Oh, take notice. He's like this in the chair, like almost like leaning over. He's not like this, like with his,
Yeah.
good posture. I think he's trying to look small. Think about it. Ethan's 6 foot something, right? So the smaller he can make himself look, the more he can maybe have a juror question like, oh, like, could this guy really have done this? So people were questioning it before when he looked healthier, you know what I mean? So if he looks frail, people are definitely good, or at least that's what the defense is hoping that they do. But I
Right.
hope they see through it.
I do too. Shelley asks if his dysfunction is finer physical states. How does he do this? Oh, yeah, we already got that one. Kohberger did that once with his hands during the hearing, the pyramid hands. It looks like he tried to catch himself and stop. And Taylor definitely coached him not to do it. I agree. He did a quick steeple with his hands in court. Did anybody else notice? It's now come out that he bought all the items in the kill kit, Kabar sheath, jumpsuit, and mask, yet none of these items found at his arrest. That's a huge point. That's a great point, JT. None of these items have been found. They're all missing. And all coincidentally were purchased right before he moved out there. I think that goes to more to say that he had planned this before he moved out, that he was going to do this. This was something that he was going to do there, and this was something he planned to do, obviously, in Pennsylvania. And I think that he would have thought, all right, they're going to go and look at all these places. They're going to go and look for clothing. They're going to go and look for a Kabar knife. They're going to look for weapons local, and I'm going to buy it now on this side of the country before I head over there. And at the end of the day, he evaded the investigation, and we know this because they had to catch him through the IGG. And the only way that the FBI can get involved in the manner that they did is if there was no other suspects and there was no other option. So,
Good points.
yeah.
But I think that is a good. I think that is a good point, though, right? Because he probably thought that if they did come to him or if they did question him, that they might look back a few months in his history of like what he bought and stuff. So if he bought it that much in advance, he was probably thinking like they're not going to look that far back. So he could show them the last few months and be like, "What are you talking about? Like I haven't even ordered on Amazon." Things like that. So I do think, but that just shows how planned this was, right? I wrote down here real quick the other day. I wrote down. Um, there's a difference between being controlling and being consumed by control. So I feel like a lot of that rigidity has to do with obsessive compulsive personality and less with obsessive compulsive disorder. But that's a whole different thing. But I don't know. I think he planned this out before he went. I think he purposely got the stuff before he went, thinking that just in case it was away. But again, he didn't realize that they'd be able to go back that far or that they would get him.
Well, I agree. And he got pulled over on one of these times that he was out there surveilling the house shortly after he was speeding without a seatbelt. And the defense doesn't want this traffic stop in, obviously, because he's being argumentative with the officer and he's questioning some things. And there's some identifiers that he's refusing to hand over, one being his phone number. I think that's going to be huge. The way the state or the defense is worried in the manner of what it shows, because it shows more than just that he was driving the white Elantra and that he drives it in the middle of the night and that it matches or it looks similar to the vehicle that's seen, driving around that morning. It also shows that, one, he may be trying to not give his phone number because, well, one, his phone is on. He knows his phone is on. He knows what he was just doing. And this was in August.
Is this the one where the female officer pulls him over?
No, we haven't seen this one. This is a male officer. It's been disclosed. It's been sealed, and so we can't. Apparently, Bryan Kohberger and the officer get in some sort of argument and referencing the seatbelt and about lying, and then he doesn't want to give the officer his phone number. Those type of things. And this is shortly after he was surveilling the house with his phone on.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Even to me, the one with the female. Did you notice even the one with the female? Like his first words are, "Actually, what happened was," and I'm like, "Oh, that's a little bit combative." I would never say that to a police officer. Would you?
I mean, I would now, but
you were a cop before. Yeah, you were a cop before. Officer. When I get pulled over, I'm like, and I'm like,
I think he thinks of himself as a cop in a certain way. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being like something there.
Or even above the cops, like the one that, that comes in as like the specialty cop. Like, I think he thinks he's even above that. Like to me, even the way he talks to that female officer. And something else that I've, like, speaking of the female officer, one of the things, I'll have to look back to be exactly who it was, but there was reports, I don't know if it was Nancy Grace or something, but there was reports that at some point he said to one of the people that he was friends with that he doesn't think that females should be officers. So I'm wondering because that would make sense with this whole, like, well, what actually happened was, and she's like, I know, I was right behind you. And he's like, and he keeps going back and forth with her. I wonder if that's the type of arguing he did with that other officer. Like if it was about the law, because that would say more to me, with the seatbelt law. Like, did he say, like, can I see that number, that law, like he did with her? Remember, she went back to the car and she had to go get the law to show him.
Yeah, I do recall that, and I didn't think he was that argumentative in that situation. I'll be honest. I've pulled over hundreds of people, if not thousands, if not more than that. And, that interaction that he had didn't seem out of pocket to a certain extent.
For
It
me,
seemed like he was trying to figure out a way to establish that he's in a criminal justice program, and that so that he can get out of getting a ticket. Oh,
so
I'm
at
about
one
to be a cop type of thing.
No, I agree with you. And I actually didn't take that into consideration. I've never pulled people over. So I'm glad that you did say that. The only thing I would say is, though, is that at one point she literally like lets him know that she's going to let him go. And he still continues to like not argue. Maybe I'm using the wrong word. I'm so used to in education, we say like argue it or whatever. So I might be saying it wrong. But he's very like he's very rigid. Like he won't let it go. He just keeps on like about that law thing. Like she was clearly going to let him go. Just shut up and just be like, "Thank you, officer. Have a great day," and just go on your merry way. But he continued, and that's where the red flag went up for me as someone who studies behavior.
Yeah. No, I get you. I mean, it was very much. Have you seen Night of the Roxbury?
Mm-mm. Oh, I
Okay.
have, but a long time ago. I have to
So
watch it.
there's a scene where them two pick up some girls and they end up going back to their place, and they're still using pickup lines when it was it was the wrong time, and they're still it's kind of the same thing. Like, all right, you've already won. You're not getting the citation, but yet he's still trying to argue it. I get exactly what
Yes.
you mean. Let's see. Let me pull this up real quick. I want to pull it. I hope I got it the right spot. But this talks about the. I think this is a spot where they talk about the traffic stop.
Position that the state should not be able to in run that, and I'm hearing the state say that they have no intention of doing that.
Well, I'll hear what they intend to do in terms, because I think that
could be
your
wrong.
reading of the rule puts requirements on them that doesn't exist under the rules of evidence, but I will listen to their
Okay.
response.
Do you want me to go to the 404B on the video or
On
keep
the,
it
on the
separate?
video of the traffic stop.
Okay. First of all, there's a pleading that was submitted to the court yesterday, and I have 3 copies of the video marked as Defendant's Exhibit D1 that I'll provide to the court for your review at your convenience. One for the court, one for you, one for Ms. McLaughlin. It occurred to me that it would be much easier for you to determine what you thought about this video if you actually got to see it in full. We don't need to play it in court. You can review that at your convenience.
Obviously, she doesn't want to play it in court because it doesn't look good for her client. I just wanted to throw that out.
Yes. It's not our position that the traffic stop equates to a crime that makes someone capable of murder. It's our position that the traffic stop video brings in other acts that the state is trying to end run on. And I want to give you examples. In this video, things that make it more prejudicial than probative are that it provides presence in Moscow. It is at night. It is a visual of the car that is not just the make and model. It is Mr. Kohberger's statement that he doesn't think state seatbelts provide much in the way of safety. Mr. Kohberger's question about why they need his phone number. Mr. Kohberger's question about how the officer reacts when people lie to him about wearing a seatbelt. If the court allows this evidence in, the state has the ability to use this to make many other points beyond identity. And the jury would have the ability to potentially seek to ask to rewatch the video. And
so what do you think about those points that she was bringing up? Now, those are probably not the most prejudicial points of the video, in my opinion. I think if there was, well, maybe so. I mean, they were pretty prejudicial. I mean, they were pretty bad. They make Bryan Kohberger look like what she's about to say. But what did you think about some of the questions, like about the lying, about the seatbelt stuff?
I don't know. I'm thinking, what did he say or do that the officer had to tell him? I don't like when people lie to me about that. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking that, like what was said that the officer even said that type thing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as why he doesn't think seatbelts are necessary or whatever. And what was his point behind that? Like, so I shouldn't get a ticket because I don't find them to be helpful. Like that doesn't mean anything. It's still a law.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's trying to argue.
It sounds like a backhanded comment, like, hey, you didn't have your seatbelt. I was like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Very probably disrespectful to the officer.
He probably tried to school the officer. I will not be surprised if we watch it and he tries to school the officer on seatbelts or something along that nature. And the officer probably gets annoyed with him, just like the other officer I felt like was a little, maybe not annoyed, but like kind of I don't know that she's ever been asked to get the law before, to bring it
Yeah.
back. So who knows what he asked this officer to do? And my thing is, in the other traffic stop, that cop didn't ask for his phone number. So is it normal? I meant to ask you this. Is it normal to ask for a phone number in a traffic stop?
If you're getting a citation, it is 100% every day.
Okay.
Now, it's because it's a promise to appear in court. And if you don't appear in court, you get a warrant and they got to contact you one way or another. We'll get your work number too.
Wouldn't you just get the license though? I've gotten tickets before. I just don't ever remember them asking me for like, oh, what's your phone number? But I could be wrong. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's
Hope that I don't
it's a
get
part of
fired.
the identification process. Every time that I have cited anybody, I mean, unless I forgot to ask, I've never had anybody give me an issue about it either. And so, mainly because I would tell them, all right, this is a promise to appear in court. One of the things that you need to do is identify yourself fully. That way you don't show up in court. We can come and find you. You don't want to give me your information. You don't want to identify yourself today. Then, we have another option and we can take you in. And I was very upfront about that. And I did. There's only 2 offenses people couldn't get arrested for. Now, speeding and open container. And that's throughout the entire nation. Those are the only 2 offenses you cannot be arrested for. Now, you can speed to the point where you're now reckless, and that's a different offense, and you can go to jail for. And you can also drink with an open container, and now that's DWI with an open container, and you can go to jail for. But if you just had an open container or you were just speeding 10 miles over, 5 miles over, you cannot go to jail for that. But anything else, whether it's a stop sign, running a stop sign, not using your signal light. I've arrested a guy for not having reflectors on his bicycle. Now, that guy was also he was a dirtbag, and that bike was probably stolen, and he was a thief, and he didn't steal anything that night. Guarantee it. You know why? I knew where he was at.
Yeah, you know where he was. And if my 22-year-old's watching right now, don't listen to Daniel. You should never have an open bottle in the car. You can get arrested. That's what I tell my kids. I'm like,
oh, there's other. The thing is, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's always another way to get in. An open container is not a reason to get pulled over. There's a reason to get pulled over. So unless it's speeding going 5 miles over the speed limit, if it's swerving, if it's anything else, then that's one thing. But the open container rule applies to, like, for instance, like if a passenger has an open container and the driver's not consuming alcohol, the driver still gets a citation for having an open container in the vehicle, even though they're not consuming alcohol. And the passenger actually doesn't get anything because they're just, what are they doing? They're just drinking beer. You know what I mean? Now, if they get out of the car, now that's public intoxication if they're acting foolish, right? Now, if they're not acting foolish and they're acting normal, it is what it is. But, the officer, typically it's discretionary. It's always discretionary, obviously. And the officer probably would, toss it out if it's just like a situation where nobody's being a jerk and, it's a spouse driving home somebody and they had a beer or something open or a daiquiri or something in the passenger seat. Toss it out, throw it, and go about your business as long as the driver's not consuming alcohol. The driver's consuming alcohol, that's a completely different story. That's a DWI with an enhancement. That goes from a Class B misdemeanor to a Class A misdemeanor. And now you're going to jail for a little bit longer. And, I mean, depending on what city you live in, how close you are to a school zone, I mean, that can even be enhanced to a state jail felony. And now you got some real problems. So there's always ways you can skin a cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For those that don't,
I didn't know any of that. I did not know any of that.
Yeah, no, I did, and I utilized those tools. If I had somebody
I'm glad that you're sharing it, right? Because if somebody else in the audience is listening, now they know.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, DWI is no joke. I had one guy, the very first guy I gave a break to. I pulled him over. It was Super Bowl Sunday, and so there's no such thing as, at least in the state of Texas, as a quota, right? Your boss cannot go up to you and say, you need to pull over and give 3 citations today. That is 100% illegal. Whether an officer gives a person a citation or a warning has to be 100% upon their discretion. They cannot be forced upon them. If it is forced upon them, it becomes illegal. There cannot be any gratification out of it either. whether it be like pay or anything like that. So there can't be any bonuses for the person that gets the most citations or anything like that. That's 100% illegal. Now, what a boss or a superintendent can do is say, you need to make 3 contacts today. So what a contact is it can be a traffic stop. You can't, whether it's a warning or a citation, they can't tell you what to do. If they do, they can fall into some serious trouble. And with most departments throughout, especially in the state of Texas, it's all civil service. And so it's unionized basically through CLEAT and or TMPA, which is like the Texas Municipal Police Officers Association or something like that. And CLEAT was the Collective Law Enforcement Agencies of Texas. So you have both of these organizations, and if anything anything goes down, it's really, really difficult to do much, right? Like, so for instance, if you have like a chief of police who has a son and they're going through the ranks and he ends up becoming a lieutenant, well, you can go through the union and report that. And there's a bunch of different things. So it's like policing each other at the same time as well. And so you have all these different things that you can go through. I don't know why I'm rambling off on it. I forgot what the point was, but
no, it's so interesting. A lot of us don't know any of this information. That's good to know, because I know around here it always feels like people are always saying like, oh, what do they have to get their quota? So it's good to know that it's not like that everywhere, and that,
yeah. Yeah, no, they can't tell you what to do. They can tell you to get 3 stops. And that's where I was going, my first DWI that I let go. So I pulled over this guy, right? And I was working 12-hour shifts, and it's about maybe 20 minutes until my shift is over. I was a workaholic. I was work ethic is through the roof. So, I work from 6:30 to 6:30. I work from 6:30 to 6:30. I work from 5 to 5. I work from 5 to 5. Just because I get off at 4 o'clock doesn't mean that crime stops at 3:55 to allow me to go home. You know what I mean? And so I worked from there, and it was about 24, 25 minutes up until maybe 20 minutes until my end of my shift. And I only had 2 contacts, and I had to get 3. I had 2 warnings. I really didn't give people citations. That wasn't my bag. I was more into patrolling the neighborhood, stopping people from burglarizing homes and houses and stuff like that. I wasn't really big on giving speeding tickets. Well, anyways, I had to pull somebody over. I had to make contact with somebody. I hadn't done anything that day. It was dead. And I'm actually heading back to the station, and I see this vehicle pulling a Mustang coming up the opposite direction, and he's approaching at a high rate of speed. So I hit him with my radar, and boom, he's going about 15 over. Light the guy up, turn around, pull up behind him. Now this is Super Bowl Sunday. I want to say 2005, maybe 2006. So 20 years ago, a long time ago. And so I'm pulling up, on the outside of his Mustang. He had a brand new Mustang. They just came out, those brand new, the retro style ones. And I was walking up to the back end of his Mustang, and I could smell the alcohol already. I mean, I was on the passenger side. And so I walk up, and I approach through the passenger side, and I look in the window, and I say, all right, I slurred speech, eyes were red. Let's get out. So I'm like, hey, man, you're going to have to come out. And the first thing that went through my mind is, I thought, man, my sergeant's going to get pissed, because I had a tendency of arresting people right at the end of my shift. So I had some pretty good overtime coming in. And so, and it wasn't planned. It was never planned. I never did that on purpose. I just worked from 6 to 6, from 5 to 5, from, sometimes we worked 12 hours, sometimes we worked 8, whatever my shift was, I worked it. And so, the first thing that went to my mind was like, man, Sarge's going to hate this, because I used to call him a D-wobbly. A D-wobbly is going to take me at least 3 hours to book, and everything in between, go and do the breathalyzer, the whole 9 yards, right? But before I could do that, I got to do the standardized field sobriety test. And so, the first one is a horizontal gaze and nystagmus, which means I'm going to check his eye movement, see if there's any jumping around. And 100% all the way through, full nystagmus, onset at 45, up and down, no matter what, right? He was failing. And then the next 2, which is the walk and turn and the one-legged stand, this guy did better than I can do sober.
I was going to say, some people can't do this stuff sober, so I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, he passed. And, I had a rule. You pass one of those 3, I'm not going to arrest you. You're going to go home. I'm not gonna give you a ride because I'm not a taxi, but you're gonna call somebody, and they're gonna come pick you up in your car. That was my rule. Up until that point, nobody passed. You know what I'm saying? Everybody I pulled over and I suspected of DWI, and I pulled them out and did the STFs. The SFTs, they failed. I had no reason, but this guy passed, and I recognized his last name, and I asked him if he was related to an officer friend of mine. Well, he wasn't really a friend of mine. He was just somebody that I knew. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, that's the person that you're going to call. And he was like, no, man, that guy's he's a jerk. I always called him something else, which he was. He's a jerk and this, that, and the third. I'm like, hey, it's either that or you go to jail, bro. And he said, all right. So he called over his buddy, and his buddy, or his cousin. His cousin came up, picked him up, and I took off. Like the next day,
Oh my gosh.
his cousin came up to me. He's like, you don't give anybody a break because they're related to me. I was like, I didn't give him a break because he's related to you. I gave him a break because, he passed. Like, what do you want me to do? And then 2 weeks later, I'm heading home, and at this point, I'm working night shift because I was working day shift. The next week, night shift, we switched every 65 days or so. And I'm working night shift, and when you work 12s, because they don't want to pay you overtime, one of the days out of the 2 week period, you have to work an 8-hour day. And so this was my short day. It was my 8-hour day. I got off at 2:00 in the morning that day, and it just so happened to be on a Friday night. And so I got off at 2 a.m. on Friday, and I'm heading home, and I had my radio on, and I hear of an accident that occurs on a bridge, and it was the same guy. He was drunk again, fully intoxicated, wrapped around a pole with his motorcycle. I could hear the other officers yelling for an ambulance when they got on scene. And then, I even heard one of the officers, there's only a handful of times I've heard an officer curse on the dispatch. And this was one time he said, fuck it, bring the coroner, he's gone. Apparently his brain started to come out of his helmet. And it was pretty bad. And, his cousin actually came up to me and told me something like, maybe if I had arrested him, maybe he would have learned his lesson. And I was like, you don't put that on me, bro. I ain't a drunk like him that decided to ride my motorcycle in the rain going 80 miles an hour drunk. That's your dumbass cousin's fault, not mine. I told him just like that. He was hurting.
I guess.
But I didn't like him. He didn't like me really even before then.
He definitely didn't like you after, right?
So I was a bit of a hot shot when I was young. I was called a crap magnet, and the reason they called me a crap magnet, which that's the edited version, is because I attracted all the crap. I found burglars, I found fights in progress, I found stabbings in progress. You name it, high speed chases. I found them all. They all found me. And it came with a reputation. I was the guy that was always arresting people for burglary and things of that nature. And those were things that were hard to do if you were out cruising around and just driving. If you were out in the neighborhoods patrolling like you were supposed to, it's not that difficult to do. But if you're out there just cruising down the main streets and just jamming out to your music all the way and waiting for somebody to report something, hey, you ain't gonna find anything. And so, I had a few people who didn't like me because of that, and he was one of them. It is what it is.
Crazy story. I was not expecting it to go there.
It stuck with me. I'm not gonna lie.
I was not expecting it to go there. Do you ever feel like, because his cousin said that, do you feel guilty or whatever?
I did for a while because I felt like I should have arrested. Maybe I did. Maybe I would have, but I didn't let anybody see that. Especially his cousin, because I didn't want him to think he got under my skin. But he was hurting. I was young at the time. I think I'd only been an officer for a handful of years at this point. And I was fairly young. I was still getting carded when I went in places. And so it did bother me for a little bit. I didn't give anybody a break on the DWI stop for a while. I don't. And the next person that I did, I think it was probably about 2 years later. And I remember this person. And the only reason I gave him a break too is because where he pulled over. So I lit this guy up. He was acting stupid. And I lit him up, and he pulled over into a parking lot that it was a gas station parking lot where the elevation wasn't very well. It was or the grounding wasn't level. You had some. It was very not level, and so I couldn't do the walk and turn or the one-legged or the 1 foot stand or whatever, one-legged stand. I couldn't do those properly, and so I let him get a ride. But the first thing I asked him is, "Do you drive a motorcycle?" He said no, and I said, "All right, well, today's your lucky day. I'm gonna let you get a ride home." And that's the only reason, is because I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel confident in that arrest. That had I arrested him, that he could have came back and said, "Hey, the ground wasn't right," and I wasn't that guy. I wasn't that guy to arrest somebody just to arrest somebody. You had to
And
really
what,
screw up.
and not just that, the other guy or whatever, he would have, what would have happened? He would have went to jail for a few hours, got picked up, and if you're drinking like that, I think he would have still, the same thing would have happened whether you arrested him or not. So hopefully, you
Yeah,
know, that
yeah. I
didn't
mean,
bother you for too long.
it will. It stuck with me for a little bit, but it was something that even some of the other officers, because it wasn't a good moment. I was young. I took that to heart. I felt so bad. Like I felt so bad that this had happened, and I knew he was hurting, and so I tried not to be like really ugly towards the guy. But you come at me with something like that, that's not cool. I mean, I had nothing to do with that. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm. If anything, he should have said to you, Daniel, I hope you don't feel guilty about this. Like, there's nothing you could have done. You would have still done the same thing. Like, that's what I would have said.
I wasn't the only. I mean, he had been arrested before. That's the other thing too. This wasn't his first time. It's not like he had no criminal record. The guy had been arrested for DWI before. He had just gotten his license back. I don't know how long earlier.
Well, that's what I
That-
was trying to say. If he was addicted, he unfortunately, like, because it's a disease, he would have unfortunately probably been in the same scenario, even if you did arrest him that night.
yeah, yeah. No, I do. But enough about me. I know nobody's here to listen about my stories. Lisa says, Daniel, I live in Idaho and love the Firing Squad t-shirt. I hope you will have some left by May. It's really cool you made these. Thank you, Lisa. And they will be available through, they should be available through May. I have them on a campaign right now, but it's reoccurring. So I'll let you guys know if it ends up turning off. And for those that aren't aware, let me pull it up real quick. For those that aren't aware, that are tuning in, that are just came in, hope I didn't close it. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I probably did. I think I
It
did.
was a really good shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll get it back up here in a minute. It's not that hard to find. I have the official Drunk Turkey. Give me a sec. Bonfire from Bonfire. It's in the description. It's the Idaho House Bill 37 Firing Squad t-shirt. Make sure you guys go and check it out. Let's see. I'll be able to pull it up here in a second. What do you think about the sealed document AT handed in today? That was about the traffic stop. That's the traffic stop that they put in. Let's see. I'm going to see if anybody's put in any more super chats real quick since we've been talking. We got Jeepsy. What's going on, Jeepsy? She says he probably hid the knife in a glove box. He has no common sense for being smart. What do you think? Do you think we're gonna? Well, I guess we'll never know, honestly. But do you think that it's hidden somewhere pretty obvious?
No, I don't think. I don't think that. I think he's smarter than we're giving him credit for. And I do think that someday, if he is found guilty and like he does all of his appeals and stuff, I do think that he will talk eventually because he's going to want to correct the record and make sure that, because this is his legacy now, he's forever going to be tied to this case. And this is just like that Casey Anthony case and stuff. Like, this is a case that's going to be known for decades to come. So I feel like at some point he's going to want to get his version of things out. And because he's so rigid, I bet you, I'm almost positive we're going to get his story eventually if he's found guilty.
Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting. I wonder how long it would take. I mean, the appeal process is several years. Do you think he likes being in the limelight? Do you think he likes everybody knowing who he is?
I do, because I think he lacked an identity and now he has one. So, and I think that he was obsessed with serial killers and reading about them and studying crime scenes. And it's like, he wrote himself in his own story, and I think that he did that on purpose. And I do. I feel like now he has an identity. We all know him as the Idaho 4 killer, right? So um, it worked in that way. And he studied under Kathleen Ramsland and stuff, who did the book with the BTK and all. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not like a BCK book with Dr. Ramsland eventually. And I'm not saying that's shady. Like, I'm being dead serious. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she eventually got him to talk to her. And then she wrote a book about his story. So I think if anything, this is probably the most infamous that he would ever become. So he probably loves the limelight.
So do you think that if, he's found guilty, let's just say he's found guilty, he's going through the appeal process, he loses his first couple of appeals, 3-4 years go down the line, nobody's talking about him. He's not the limelight no more. Do you think that's when he probably comes forward and says something?
1,000%.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's kind of like BTK, right? He comes in every now and then, like every few years when we stop talking about him, he'll do something or say something, and it gets him back in the news again. So I feel like that's what we're going to wind up seeing down the line if he gets found guilty.
True. Manic Malice comes in with $20 super chat saying, would love to absolutely talk in depth with Dr. Vona as an Idaho native and involved in this case since the morning of the crime, studied psych since childhood due to familial mental illness and psychopathy. I have some unique insights. Oh,
well, email me at jamievona@gmail.com. It's JAIMEVONA@gmail.com. And
if you put the I in the wrong place, you might end up emailing Jaime, and he may come back on.
I wish he would. I miss him. He's funny.
He is. He makes appearances on my gaming channel. Guys, I do have a gaming channel. Jaime comes out. He talks. He's there. He's alive. And it's Drunk Turkey Gaming. So Blue's doing well. I talked to him the other day. He's doing so many jobs. He's a paramedic, x-ray tech, he's going to school, and he's got his family that he's taking care of. And
awesome.
he plans on coming back once his schedule dies down. Jaime, on the other hand, he's the one's a little bit more troublesome to get back on. He's gotten tired of talking about Bryan Kohberger. I think once this case is over, he's probably going to be making more appearances, but that's the honest truth. He's gotten tired of talking about BK.
It makes sense.
But we couple of things, guys. On April 15th, I have Howard Bloom on. Howard Bloom, he's going to be talking about a book that's coming out. He already wrote it. It's called When the Night Comes Following, a Requiem for the Idaho Murders. But he has a paper book coming out with new information. He's going to talk about the new information that has come out since the release of the book. He's going to talk about some information, bombshell, breaking news stuff. He's going to break some more information on the channel on Tuesday, April 15th. I know I said Wednesday a minute ago, but it's Tuesday, April 15th. We're doing this at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be live on the channel. And we're also going to have Steve Goncalves on a little bit after that. Now, that's not going to be a live, most likely. That's going to be a recorded interview. It'll probably be released out in bits and then the full one in its totality. But keep your eye out there. This interview with Steve, we intended to be the most comprehensive interview, going over everything in the case, including some things that maybe you have and most likely haven't heard about. So maybe you guys have to you guys have to subscribe, you guys have to ring that notification button so that way you're notified when all this goes down. Because some of y'all watch on the live, some of you guys watch on the recorded, on the replay, and some only watch the videos that I put out, the little segments. And so if you're only watching some of the content, you might miss out on the other ones. So make sure you hit the notification button so that way you're notified of all the content that comes through. And check out Drunk Turkey Gaming while you're at it. I'd appreciate it.
And please give my condolences to Steve. And if his family ever needs anything or has any psychological questions, you have my permission to give him my information.
Awesome. I will let him know. I will inform him. He's a cool guy. Me and him talk about other things too. We talk about things like football. He's a fan of Boise State, and there's a running back, Ashton Genty, that's coming out that I wish the Steelers would get, but it's probably not going to happen. I think he's going to go beforehand. The Raiders, his team, may be a team that he goes with. So those are some of the conversations that we have. It's not always
Or
about.
my team, the Eagles, could just win again, and then that's all.
Well, we'll see.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
We'll see. We'll see. Orion Holmes says, Daniel, maybe he used two knives, one in each hand at the same time. That's hard to do. You know, I don't know. I mean, that's hard to do. It's hard to do.
I think if anything, it would be more likely that he had a knife and then maybe could he have picked something up and like used something around him as a weapon? Sure, but I don't know that I could picture him going in with two knives, because wouldn't that just leave like double the amount of mistakes?
Yes, but also I think that it's not so much two knives. I think that I think what Ann Taylor is just going to try to avoid answering is the blade will get manipulated when it comes in contact with a person, whether it's the flesh, the bone, the muscle. The tip of the blade may bend, may break, those type of things. And because of that, the next time that knife goes into somebody else, it's not going to make the same tears because the blade isn't the same anymore. It's now been manipulated. It's now bent, it's curved. So the ripping and the tearing could be different in those ventures. I personally think when it comes to Kaylee and Maddie, the difference in the injuries happens to do with the ferocity of the attack. I think that Kaylee had some more serious injuries because she was the second one attacked and less of the surprised victim. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
Let's see. Do you think that so back to that night, the traffic stop that Ann Taylor doesn't want people to see? What else could you think that you could see in there? Apparently, he just left the residence. He'd been there for about an hour, just shortly before he gets pulled over. What do you think we're going to see? Do you think we can see maybe some notebooks or anything? Do you think he was documenting? Would that be part of his personality to document what he's surveilling?
That's a great point, though. Like, what did he have in the car that people are going to notice? I never even thought of that. I was thinking more of his behavior and his thought process because I'm thinking psychology, but it never occurred to me that maybe they don't want us to see it. Not just for that, because my thing was they're trying to warn us about his behavior. So if anything, wouldn't these traffic stops like show that behavior that she's trying to warn us about? But then, so then what could it be, right? Could it be something in the car, like you said, a notebook, or could there be something in the background that's, that they're afraid we're going to see? I never thought of that. It could be.
Dang, what if you see the knife? That would be crazy.
Imagine? That would be crazy.
Yeah, because that's the one thing that we have to remember the body cam is located on the chest. Now, when it comes to the female who had the traffic stop with him, if you notice that traffic stop, it's kind of hard to see inside his car, but that's probably because of how she's standing. A man who's a little bit taller typically has to lean over. So that's why when you see the body cam footage in Indianapolis or in Indiana, you can see a little bit more of the interior of the car. You can see his legs, you can see his hands, you can see all the way across to the other side. And in the body cam footage with the female officer, you can't. And so I'm assuming that you're probably going to be able to see a good part of his vehicle unless the officer is vertically challenged.
And if he was there surveilling, who knows, like you said, what he could have had there, whether it be notes or another camera or anything, just anything that shows somebody that's surveilling someone else. And even just the fact that they could say that he'd been surveilling for about an hour, that alone has to be damaging, right? Like, why was he in the neighborhood? He wasn't doing grocery shopping at that time. So like, what was he doing?
I mean, you can't go shopping there. That was one of his supposedly things that he said, right? Is that he likes to shop in Idaho.
Better. Yeah.
And so, well, what shopping are you doing within 100 meters of the victim's residence, right? And if you don't have anybody that lives in that area that can be a reason why you're there for so many times, 23 different times during those odd hours, that's going to be something that's going to be really hard to explain, especially If he doesn't go up there and testify, who's gonna speak for him to say, oh, he could have been doing this, or he could have been doing that, or he could have been visiting this person if he's not going to testify? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. There is one thing I meant to ask you that I totally forgot about. Did you notice that in the hearing, and it could just be me again, but I did rewind it twice to make sure. But Anne says something along the lines of, and I want to get this right. She says, if we get to that point, and she was talking about jury selection. You don't think that they would ever do a deal with him, do you?
Right now, who won't do a deal with him?
Like, do you think the prosecution at this point, like, I feel like the family wants answers and stuff. Like, wouldn't doing a deal like shut that down? I guess I think of like with Chris Watts when, like, once he said I did it, then everything shut down and nobody got any more information. So my thing is like, would that if he did do a deal, would we still get to see everything? Like, would everything get unsealed still?
Everything would get unsealed if they
Okay.
closed it and he confessed. To my knowledge. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I depend on lawyers for Freedom of Information Act stuff for the FOIA report. Like, for instance, the 911 call. I didn't get it. I have lawyers. I know a few lawyers, actually. I've had one on the show that's not the same lawyer. They may know each other, but they're not the same lawyer. That assist me with getting the like the 911 call and stuff. I'm hoping they can get the traffic stop, but after seeing today that it was sealed, I doubt I'm going to get it anytime soon. But I hope I get it. Do you think
that the prosecution would even want to do a deal with him at this point?
To do a deal with him, I mean, what do they? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, because I think they would have to be in fear of losing this case. And I mean, what is it that the defense can say at this point? I mean, what they're going to say is that there's two perps, right? And I'm going to do my little psychic thing based on all the information that I know that they've put out there and based on the things that Ann Taylor has said. They're going to claim that there was two perps. They're going to claim that one person went out the front door, which is why there's blood DNA on a handrail downstairs. They're going to claim that one person took out Murphy outside, and that's why you can hear him barking. They're going to claim that the injuries to the victims in the third floor don't match, and that Madison has no defense wounds, meaning that she was either bound of some way or held down during the attack. That's what they're saying at this point, based on everything that they have said. And they're probably going to try to say that there was another white Elantra out there and that somebody else planted the sheath. Now, I think it's I don't buy any of it, you know.
Me either.
They're going to attack the Dillon statement, you know, that he walked out the back sliding glass door in efforts to try to say, no, the killer went down the first floor, so that they can say that the DNA that's left on the handrail is the real killer's, and thus it's not Bryan Kohberger, so he's not him. That's the only argument that they have at this point. But
couldn't you counter that though by saying that Dillon saw him walking out that way, but couldn't he have turned around and came back and went out the other? I mean, just like the thing with the car where they say he's going in the one direction, but you could do a U-turn and
right, but the blood doesn't match Bryan Kohberger's. That's on the handrail.
Couldn't it be somebody's blood for anybody's blood? And like,
it could be.
You could get blood from like biting your nails and stuff.
Yeah, it could have been from anywhere. I mean, there was one thing that that was said in court, or maybe it wasn't, but I think it's going to be. I hope I don't give away too much, but I'm pretty sure it was said something about a nail that was on the handrail. Like, you know, like if you're walking by and you kind of like scratch yourself on it, type of thing. But here's the thing: there was like 150 people there the night before,
and they were probably intoxicated. So
yeah,
I mean,
and there's no telling how long the blood had been there. It could have been there a day, it could have been there a week, could have been there a year. You know, there's no telling how long it's been there. And it's just small amount. It's a speck of blood. It's a very small amount. It's not like a handprint or anything like that. This is, you know, a small amount of blood that was found. And it's so small they couldn't even, I don't think they could even test it to turn it into to try to do a familial tree DNA thing like they did with Bryan Kohberger's DNA. It was too
That's
small
good to
for
know
her.
because I was worrying. I mean, I was wondering, like, why didn't they do that with that one since they did it with the other? So to hear that maybe there wasn't enough makes me feel better because I'm like, did they just stop? Like, is Annie Taylor going to try to say, like, they just stopped after they found that DNA on the knife? She stopped looking at any other suspects. So I'm afraid that she's going to say that too. So I hope that they did try to figure out who that went belonged to so that they have a reasoning for why that blood is not does
But
not match or whatever.
even if there was two people that committed this crime, that doesn't mean that Bryan Kohberger wasn't one of them. And you still
I
got
think
his
the judge
DNA on
said
the
that,
knife
right?
sheath. Yeah, exactly. The judge said that exactly. It doesn't mean that Bryan Kohberger wasn't one of them. It's, his vehicle, that's what's matched outside. It's his DNA on the knife sheath found under the body of a victim. It's his phone that's turned off during the commission of the crime. It's him that doesn't have an alibi. It's those things that take into consideration. It's him that was out there 23 times before the murders, during that odd specific hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. It's all pointing towards him. At the end of the day, we know that there was a party there the night before. How do we know that? We can easily prove that by deduction, even if somebody were to say, well, there's no actual evidence out there of a party. I think there is. If you look at those, there was some statements that have been stated by neighbors in that area that has said that it was a very quiet night that night. Super quiet, oddly quiet. One lady said she was playing like Minesweeper for days or something like that, and that it was oddly quiet that night. And that's because there was several parties going on. One was at Sigma Chi, and one was at it was another party that had to deal with Ethan's brother and sisters, either for fraternity or sorority that they were a part of. And they all went to that party, and then Ethan left that party and went to Sigma Chi and met up with Xana and Bethany there. So those were the major parties that were going on that night. The night before that, there was some parties there. Now we know that because there's some images that can be clearly found and seen where you can see inside the house and you see the reminiscence of beer pong. You see beer bottles. You see food and a bunch of other stuff that's there. And it was a quiet night. And we know that there are some images out there of a party that was there at that house the night before. So, again, you can connect these dots. Somebody mentioned the Danielism that I said is, if you can't connect these dots, then you shouldn't be looking at dots. This is one of those moments. You can connect the dots to indicate that there was a party there the night before. And I'm sure there's a ton of DNA in that house. That's probably one of the reasons why this house was chosen, is because of the amount of people that go to that house.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Do you think, I have a question. Do you think somebody else asked me this and I didn't know how to answer, but do you think that he could have thought that the house was like a duplex because it was like two different, or do you think he like knew that it was a whole one house?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I wonder.
I don't know because, I mean, he could have done some research, but if he goes out there and Google searches that address and they find that in his search history before the murders, then it's pretty telling, right? Now, that doesn't mean he couldn't have gone somewhere and searched somewhere else in a cafe or something. You know what I mean? But even if you could, the only thing that was available at the time was like Zillow and other places for rent, and all the pictures were all over the place. So I think you probably may have been able to determine that it probably wasn't like a dividing wall there, but he probably did not have the layout of where every room was at.
I agree with that.
He probably had an idea that there were some rooms. I mean, I remember when we went through Zillow. So when this happened, I went through Zillow and this other apartment complex thing that had pictures of the 1122 King Road residence. And those aren't available anymore. But after that, somebody put like a 3D tour. Well, that wasn't available at the time of the murders. That was somebody that did that after the murders. And so it was like a scattered amount of pictures all over the place and no specific order. I'm sure you can figure some of them out, whether they were on the first floor based about what you were looking out the window, or if they were the back sliding glass door or whatnot. But like, for instance, it'd be difficult to determine that Dylan's room was a bedroom and not a closet based on just pictures from Zillow. Get what I'm saying?
I think that he thought that it was a pantry door.
very
If you
much
look at
possible.
it, it looks like a pantry door. That's what I thought it was at first until someone said it was a bedroom, and then I was like, oh wait, that's a bedroom.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see.
Ooh,
Linnell,
I
man,
don't know, Linnell or Lynn. I'm sorry,
Lynn,
Lynn.
Linley. I
Winnie,
was
Winley. I know. I hate saying names too
my
because I'm always getting them wrong.
my dyslexia was like not working with me on that one. It was it was trying to make me say Linnell or something
It
different.
happens to me all the time.
Linley says, "Do you think BK is happy with his defense team after this last hearing? What do you
I
think?"
don't know. I don't know because you mentioned the last time I was here about him and Ann Taylor, so I really started to take notice, and I feel like they get further and further apart every hearing.
Hmm.
That could be telling.
Well, maybe it's starting to click with her that he actually committed this crime. You know, one
Do
of the
you really
things.
think that she ever believed that he didn't?
No, I mean, she doesn't know where he was during the murders.
Exactly.
Like that's like the biggest tell, right? Because she's even said it in court hearings and written it down in documents that when she knows more about where he was, then she'll tell it. But I think it was a situation where she was asking these motion to compels to the prosecution. I think it had to do with the IGG, and Bill Thompson made the statement like saying, "Well, I can't give her what we don't have." And then the next motion was about the alibi. And Bill Thompson's like, we want his alibi. And Taylor's like, well, I can't give him what I don't have. I can only give you what I do have. And what they had at that time and what they've had since then is that Bryan Kohberger doesn't say or give any, he doesn't give an alibi as, for instance, as where he was at any specific place or specific time that night. Just that throughout the night, he was southwest somewhere driving
Hmm.
around. Right. So he don't even know where he was at 4:00. Now, my assumption is, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure if I was a lawyer, this situation would go down like this. And Bryan Kohberger was my client. So where were you? Well, first and foremost, do you want me to know where you were? Plausible deniability. Do you want me to know where you were? If you don't want me to know where you were, then that's fine. I can still try this. Just don't tell me where you were.
I agree.
And if that's the case, and if that's the way it went down, and he said, I'm not going to tell you where I was, then, well, again, if you can't connect those dots, you shouldn't be looking at dots. It's
So
plain and simple.
you said something that just reminded me of something. So you said, I can't give you what I don't have, and I just made the connection psychologically. I always tell people that we don't like in other people what we don't like about ourselves. So for example, if you're cheating on someone, you start accusing your spouse of cheating on you type thing because you're doing it. So when you said I can't give you what you don't have, all I could think about is her accusing the prosecution of not giving her stuff and them saying we don't have it, like those 7 hours. You know what I mean? So it's like that
Mhm.
same thing. So it's like, is she now assuming because she, I don't know. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the connection there. And I, I, I don't know. I saw the connection there. I don't know what my point was about it, but I did have a point for a second, and then I lost my train of thought.
Tina comes in saying the protesters are going nuts over a new document that states timing records sealed, and they're all saying, oh, they do exist. They do exist. There's the victims' timing records. There's 2 of them. There's 3,800 mobile carriers there of AT&T. Their timing records exist. What don't exist are Bryan Kohberger's timing records because they were outside the 7-day scope. But everybody else's does exist because they had access to it. They did I guess a warrant, or they did a pool for those things on November 16th, which was only 3 days after the murders. So they still were within that 7-day period. Bryan Kohberger wasn't a suspect until December 19th. And so there it is.
Question: if they did a data dump type thing, would his phone number have been part of that data dump?
It would have if his phone was on, but it was off.
That's right. What about the next day when he came back?
Well, they only did the data dump was for between 3 and 5 a.m. and within a certain radius of the house. And so they didn't have a warrant for the next day.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so let's see. Let me see, because I want to go through the advanced timing records. Stipulated motion to seal defendant's exhibit 4 in support of their Objection to the state's motion in limine, advanced timing records, advanced records. Let me share this. This is what people are talking about. Comes now Bryan Kohberger with no objection from Latah County office. Move the court order or seal the defendant's exhibit 4 support of their objection. The state's motion is because there are either previously already sealed or redacted. For the purpose of this motion, the court, we need the full document. This doesn't even say anything about them having his documents.
Mm-mm.
Bryan Kohberger, through his attorney of the record, with no objection from the Latah County Prosecuting Office, move the court for an order to seal the defendant's Exhibit 4 in support of their objection to the state's motion. So they're sealing their, I'm assuming it's like whatever Cy Ray did, like to say that they had timing advance records. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's how I take it.
It's not that they're sealing anybody's advanced timing records. They're sealing the motion or the order for an order to seal a defendant's exhibit, the Exhibit 4, in support of their objection to the
So the
state's
thing
motion.
that he called a conspiracy theory, is that what they sealed?
I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know. Let me see. Bryan Kohberger, with no objection from Latah County, move the court to an order to seal the defendant's Exhibit 4 in support of their objection to the state's motion. I'm assuming it's that it's Cy Ray's stuff, because that's what they were going to use to support their objection to the state's motion.
I think that's it too.
The pro-burgers just don't read. They don't understand.
Or they read it and they take out of it from what they want to take out of it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, there's something being sealed and it's related to the AT&T timing advance records, so that must be. No. In fact, the first thing that I thought of when I read this, because I read this before the show, I had this open. I have this one, this one, this one, and this open beforehand. And this is another one also. This is the notice of the following defendant's Exhibit D1 in support of the motion, state's notice to intent to use IR, whatever evidence. This is the one referencing the traffic stop that I was talking to you about earlier. And this one here, I read this and I was like, oh, they're basically withdrawing or they're sealing whatever it was that they were going to use to object to the timing advance records. Now, if they're still trying to argue it, that's insane. That would be insane.
Could they be sealing it? Because would you be able to get like a request for that? Like, could they? You know what I mean? You know how you do like a request for stuff? What's it called? Like a
motion to compel, discovery,
or like when we ask for stuff like oh my gosh, why am I having
freedom
like
of information?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Could somebody do the Freedom of Information Act on that if it's not sealed?
That'd be interesting. Maybe. You know, the only thing I can think of is maybe Cy Ray wants to come back and say, no. When in August of 2021, when I talked to this other FBI agent, they gave me advanced timing records that were captured outside of the 7-day scope. That's the only thing I can think of. But like the judge said, was what the hell does that have to do with Bryan Kohberger's case? And did Agent Balance have that? Was it Agent Balance that had that? You know what I mean? Just because some other officer or FBI agent had access to something somewhere else or got something improper or whatever the case may have been, doesn't mean that that was the case here. Now, that's the only thing I can think of as far as what they're going to try to say is maybe Cy Ray. I mean, that's the only thing he can do to maybe save his rear is to come out and say, oh, well, the advanced timing records I saw were over 7 days back in August of 2020.
I was literally just going to say, could he be doing this to save his butt after like hearing all the blowback that he's gotten? Because he really did. If you looked at like his on paper, he looked great on paper. So like I feel like by getting involved in all this stuff, he, like you said earlier, this could be like a career ender for him. Like, so I'm sure he's happy that this is under seal.
That I'm sure he is. I'm sure, but I don't know if you saw it live when I was reacting to that. When Ann Taylor goes, we can get Cy Ray on. I bet Cy Ray's like, no.
especially in front of that judge, because he straight called him a conspiracy theory and stuff, like, or whatever. So he absolutely, yeah, I agree.
I mean, when your work has been called a conspiracy theory and junk science by multiple judges, it's maybe time to get with the times. I think the problem with Cyray is that maybe his way of doing things was a way of doing things a few years ago, but that may not be the case anymore. And if you don't adapt and you don't get with the times, you get left behind.
That's true. If he did testify in the future, could somebody like bring this stuff up?
Well,
Not
it
in this case.
depends.
Like if he testified in someone else's case going forward, could somebody be like, "Oh, well, you were the guy with the conspiracy," you know what I mean, or something like that to discredit him? Like,
I'm sure.
Could this really be like career ending?
I'm pretty sure that when it comes to credibility, that prosecutor, I don't think he's going to ever find a job with prosecutors again. I think
Neither.
that's the reason why he's going so hard with the defense. I mean, he threw an FBI agent under the bus, and was throwing law enforcement under the bus about these August 2021 timing advance records that he had. You don't do that if you have any intention on working with him again. You know what I mean? And so
Yep.
he's probably he's doing that to show, defense attorneys across the nation that, hey, I'm here to play ball. And, if I'm a prosecutor, the only thing that would save his rear, and I think this might actually save it, is if he typed up that affidavit before the state dropped their response about the 7 days, and Ann Taylor decided to drop the affidavit anyways.
I'm sure I would not be surprised if that's the case, to be honest with you, because I feel like whatever works in her favor, she's willing to do. So, like you said, if he would, and let's say he was the other way, and he was like, defense attorneys everywhere, like, here I am to play ball. Um, Either way, one of them are playing games, whether it's him or her. I don't know which one it is, but either way, it's not a good look for either one of them,
I mean,
especially when the judge says it.
I think it's her, because she was willing to throw him back on the stand, even after she said the imagine, even after the judge said, even in light of this new evidence, what are you doing? Why are you still arguing this?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, let's throw Cyray out there. And so I just, I know that they're going to get their voir dire, I think is what it's called. And they're going to talk to Special Agent Balance, and they're going to ask him, did you have these advanced timing records before, did you have them? And he's going to say no. And that's going to be the end of it. But because there's no evidence or proof otherwise. But yeah,
I feel
I
like at
think,
this point, some of her motions, I feel like are a little bit like almost like they're like a waste of money for the county and stuff. Like, I feel like especially this one. Let's just take this one for example. Think of all the money she had to pay Cyree to do all of this work and stuff like that. Like, it literally, you don't have to be a genius to know that if you're not the suspect in the first 7 days and they only hold data for 7 days, then they're not going to have your data for those first 7 days. Like, I feel like at what point are they wasting money on some of this stuff, and or like wasting the county's money and the taxpayer?
well, it's kind of like what they were talking about at the end there about stalling. I think it's not so much wasting money as they're wasting time, and they're doing it on
Mm,
purpose. At
yeah.
the end, I think even the judge said, all of this evidence is just meaningless surveillance video that has nothing to do with this case, and yet you're trying to bring it up that you want to go through it for 100 years. And
Hmm.
it he sees through it. I think everybody can see through it. They file their motions on the eve of hearings sometimes, or on the eve of deadlines. It's all a stall tactic. It really is. And then they complain about it too. They complain about it. They complain about how he waived his right for a speedy trial. And I'm like, the only reason he hasn't, you know, gone to trial is because he don't want to yet. It's his choice.
Mm-mm.
It's not anybody else's choice. Just like, when they were complaining that he was by himself in solitary, and then they were also complaining that other inmates yell at him. I'm like, well, what do you want? You want him to go play basketball with the other inmates? They're probably going to shank him. They're
Right.
going to beat the crap out of him. They're already threatening him, yet you're arguing because they have him in solitary confinement. You
And you
know,
know what sucks though about these guys? If he really is like how I'm thinking with a personality disorder, it's okay, like he's not having a hard time being alone. And that almost like, oh, like I don't like that. Like I almost wish he like wanted to be with other inmates or whatever, but I don't even think that he cares, in my opinion. Like if we're looking
Oh,
at all the stuff.
I think he's having a really rough time. I think he's, I think if you're listening, Kober, which I doubt, but if it gets back to you, I hope you like that extra protein. He knows what I'm talking about. He knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Let me ask you a question. Could he be stalling? And I don't know the answer to this because I'm not a cop. Um, are the conditions in jail better than the conditions if like he gets found guilty? Like is what he's experiencing now better than if he gets found guilty? What he'll experience
No, I think it's
then?
going to be the same. Well,
Okay.
right now, what I heard is I've heard some things about where he's at right now, and I'm not privileged to say,
Right. I just didn't know if your
but
rights change. So forget him
right,
altogether. But like when you're still innocent until proven guilty, do you have more rights than if you're found
you're
guilty of
typically
something?
held in a different facility, and so you're typically held in a holding facility versus a maximum prison. But at the end of the day, he's going to be in solitary confinement because it's a high profile case. And so his day is going to be spent 23 hours in a cell, 1 hour in a cage outside, all of it by himself. He'll never have contact with anybody else.
And that's
Whenever
when I
he,
think he'll talk.
yeah, yeah, I don't think he'll ever have contact with anybody else or anything like that. Yeah, his only contact are going to be with people that visit him.
Or the
And
people
it
that
very
fall in
well,
love with serial killers and stuff like that. I'm sure
yeah,
he gets women right now
and
that
men,
are,
dude.
oh
Did
yeah,
you see
that's
the
true. I didn't
dudes
think
in
of
the
that.
courtroom behind him?
No, I didn't.
There was a
No, what are
lady
you talking
too.
about?
There was a lady that was acting all psycho. She even came out on News Nation. Well, she didn't come out on News Nation, but News Nation brought her up about what
I
she was
missed
doing.
that. I
Oh,
missed that.
she was like falling asleep. Like she was literally bent over with her head between her legs. And then she like kicks her head up and then she throws heart symbols at Bryan Kohberger. Like, yeah,
Oh
it was,
my God, I need to go back and rewatch that.
yeah, yeah. They end up kicking her out.
Oh, they did?
Well, she got up and left, like, I guess to do something outside and they didn't let her back in.
Wow. But
Yeah.
you said there was guys back there looking too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There was some trolls that I'm familiar with that were back
Wow.
there. His supporters were there.
Unfortunately, Daniel, I have a feeling that this guy's gonna like I bet you the Gonzaleses and stuff, like I bet you they would do anything. And I think Steve said this before, like he wishes that Kaylee and Maddie were in jail for the rest of their lives because at least he could talk to them then and go visit them and stuff like that. So it's like no matter what, unfortunately, I don't like unless the shirt that you just made like comes to fruition. I mean, how much of this is really punishment for him? He's getting all this attention. We're all talking about him. He now has an identity through these girls. He could still talk to his parents if he wants. We didn't even talk about the fact that his sister is writing a book about him. So like how much can Ann Taylor said that they're on his side? Like what's she writing a book about? Like is it for him, against him? I don't know. The whole thing just confuses me. But I think that's what she's trying to do, honestly.
I do too. Well, the story is that yeah, one of the sisters is writing a book. That's definitely the story. I don't know which one. I don't know what it's how it's portrayed. I would
Yeah, do you
assume
think
it's
it's
probably.
for him or against him?
I mean, it can't be for him. I mean, who's gonna?
Yeah, that's
What are they?
true. Who's gonna
What is
buy
she gonna
that book?
say? What is she gonna say? He came home and he was acting normal. Who's gonna read that?
You're right.
You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna want to read that.
And she
People are
got a
gonna.
book deal or something. So I doubt, like you said, somebody's going to do a book deal for her to be like, oh, nothing to see here.
Yeah. Long Island Hillbilly comes in with 1999 saying a plea deal would guarantee Kohberger never does any more stargazing. Well, the only ball gazing he'll be doing won't be stars. I'll say that.
You just said ball gazing. That was a
He's,
Freudian slip.
he's gonna be doing some. Isn't that what stars are? Big balls of gas. He's still gonna be doing
I
some ball
never thought.
gazing. There's still he's gonna be doing some ball gazing. It's just not gonna be the ones that he likes.
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry, guys. I'm immature sometimes.
No, me too. I'm laughing right along with
Daniel, it's probably a follow-up motion. Hitler told Ann Taylor she needed a file. Good point. Good point.
you. Oh, good
Good
looking out,
point.
Mark.
Will
Good looking
Kohberger get
out.
vegan meals when he is sentenced to prison?
That's a
I'm not
great
sure.
question.
I don't know, but I think so. I think so. he gets that special protein. He gets that special treatment. You know, if he
Do
looks a
they
little
have
thin,
like
I
a
think.
vegetarian diet like there? Like,
They said that they were conforming to his meals, from what I heard in the news.
yeah.
News Nation said that, I believe. I think it was like either Brian Enton or one of those guys said that
But
they
I
were.
wonder if he's found guilty, will they still do that, or are they like, you're just gonna have to figure it out type thing? Like, because my thing is, if they're gonna do it for him, wouldn't they have to do it for other people?
Well, it depends. I mean, he's got a history showing that he had this diet for his medical purposes. Now, if it's not diagnosed by a doctor, I think there's going to be some trouble there. But I mean, I don't know how doctors work in the prison system or anything like that, so I wouldn't know how favorable they are to inmates' requests for things like this. So, I mean, if he got a doctor to agree to it, then I think he probably could. But getting a doctor to agree would be the second part. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Let's see. I mean, if you were called in to work at a prison and you had Bryan Kohberger and he was requesting this and he was saying that it assists with his visual snow and other symptoms that may cause some other mental issues, how would you treat or react to it?
He probably should have thought of that before you know what I mean? Like, don't be doing shit like that. Yeah.
No, I
It's all
agree. I
about ball
agree.
gazing before you ball gaze. You should have thought about vegan diet before you do something. You know, and I'm saying, like, if he's found guilty, like he should have
Yeah.
probably took all of that stuff into consideration. Like, what if I get caught? I'm never going to be able to do this again or that again. And my thing is, I think he started that diet because of that visual snow stuff and all, and um, back in the day or whatever. And then he lost all that weight and stuff. So um, I get that, like, he's been on a vegan diet for forever, but can't they just be like tough? Like, you're going to eat this or not? I don't
I
know.
mean,
I don't know what the rule is.
I don't know what the rules are too. I've never been to prison, guys. I put people there,
Yeah.
but I've never been.
Unfortunately, I live in Philadelphia and many of my friends have. So I'll make a few phone calls after we hang up tonight and I will find out for next time. I promise you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming the warden can be tough and say, hey, you know, there's a piece of protein, and then right next to it, there's some rice and some whatever else comes on the plate. You know, eat the stuff
Yeah.
around it.
And I can only imagine if he does eventually get put with other people, like and other populations, that you would be the one that stick out to everybody. Like, oh, look at that. Like, I feel like that would only put a target on your back. Like, oh, look at him. He thinks he's special. He gets a vegan diet.
Hmm.
So I don't even like, I don't know. I don't know if that's even something that they do, but I
Yeah,
will find out for us.
yeah. How ironic that the girls are now paying attention to him, that they were forever out of reach.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that 100%. And
I
I
mean,
think that, yeah, go ahead.
no, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, I think that that's a really good point, and that makes me wonder how communicative, like how much he like, I wonder what he does with that now. Like, does that make him excited? Is he like, does it make him feel awkward? Like, I don't know. I wonder if he likes this attention from just random women. I think he wants attention from like academics and stuff. I think that academically he's able, because seriously, if you get into a doctor program, I don't know if anybody knows this, but even, I mean, any doctor program that's a reputable one, it is a hard thing to do. It's so hard. You have to go through multiple layers. There's like a million interviews. You have to do all this stuff. So my thing is, like, we have to give him some credit there, right? So he's got to be somewhat intelligent. Um, what the hell? I just, I just What was I saying right before that, Daniel? What the hell just happened? My daughter just walked by and my whole mind just went blank. Oh, the girls. Sorry. The
Yeah.
girls. That's my thing. Sorry about that, you guys. So with the girls, I think that he has tried in the past to talk to women. And if you remember, the guy that invited him to the pool party, that he said, I'm going to go get some swim trunks or whatever, which I've never heard anybody refer to their bathing suit as a swim trunk, but that's a different story. But he got two phone numbers while he was there. So I'm not like sold on the fact that he's like involuntarily celibate, but I'm also not sold on the fact that girls were dropping, their things over him and stuff like that. So I am kind of curious as to how he is dealing with this extra female influx of female as opposed to like an influx of like academics like Dr. Ramsland or like Dr. Bricado or something. Like, I think if anything, that's the attention he wants, not necessarily the female attention, if that makes sense.
I mean, there's one thing about looking good in uniform and getting in a batter's box, and another thing about hitting the ball. You know, he may have been able to get these numbers, or right now he might be able to get these women attention, but they don't know who he is. They have an idea of who he is. Who's to say that once they meet him in person and his weird creepiness doesn't creep them out? You know what I mean? And so they have this idea of who he is, that, oh, he's this guy that was going for his PhD. He must be like Dr. McDreamy from, the soap opera I watch on daytime trash TV. And that's not the case. That's not the case.
Mhm.
There's this idea of who he is and how he acts and how he reacts. And then there's the reality.
Well, I agree with you, and I think being an intellectual might be the only, like, if he did have a little bit of an identity, that seemed to be the only one that kind of was steady over time is academics. So like even with the thing like losing weight, you can only lose so much weight, right? But keeping it off is great. But it was like so those things were like in the limelight for a little bit, but I feel like his academics was something that went with him throughout time. So I think that he did find a little bit of identity within academics. So I think if anything, again, I think this just makes me more convinced that eventually he's going to want to speak to other academics as opposed to just like writing. I don't see him as the type to just write random women back. I
Mhm.
I could be wrong though. I might try and write him and see if he writes me back. We'll find out.
Well, apparently, after he got those two phone numbers, according to Howard Bloom, he spoke to those girls, and they said that they received calls with people hanging up, somebody hanging up repeatedly. They never heard from him, but they heard they both got calls, like hang up calls, like just somebody breathing. Like I said, I mean, it's one thing to look good in uniform and look like you can play ball, and another thing to get in the batter's box and actually hit the ball. And
But I think it also plays to like to the autistic thing, right? Because with the autism, what they're trying to argue is that he doesn't have any communication skills with other people, and that he seems weird to people and stuff. So my thing is, if he was that weird, it's not that he got one girl's phone number that day; he got two of them. So he must know how to mask enough to because why would you just give your phone number to somebody that is creepy or weird or so my thing is, and the girls didn't say that they gave him a fake number, like you said, according to
you get
Howard
a
Bloom.
number to that guy.
I know, right? Well, this is the thing though. If you look at some of his other pictures, he doesn't quite look like I don't know, Daniel. That looks so scary to me. But he did get phone numbers. So that says to me that like if you look at like Elliot, what's his name? Elliot Roger, he
Yeah.
was very like he would go to a party and if you didn't speak to him, that was a sign of like, well, why aren't they speaking to me? I'm the supreme gentleman. Like he didn't get it. He was autistic 100%. I think this is why I'm getting so outraged over this is because I think people are lumping him in with the Elliot Rogers of the world, and I don't know that he necessarily fits there. Although I do see the parts where like he's like isolated socially, but I think it's different. With
Well,
Elliot Rogers, he wanted people to talk to him, and if they didn't, he's seen it as like a reflection of him. Where with Bryan Kohberger, it seems like he at least spoke to people. Apparently, he asked the cop if he wanted to go get a coffee at some point that arrested him in Pennsylvania. Did you hear that one?
I did not. I didn't know that. But
Yeah.
right. No, and I get that. Um Man, I
It
had a
was about
point
the
there.
Elliot Roger. It was about Elliot Roger. I
Yes.
think you were, and
Yeah, I
about
was
like
gonna
the
say about
incel stuff.
him being with Elliot Rogers. He gosh, what was I gonna say with that? I know it was with Elliot Rogers and
And
and,
it was
and being
about
an
getting the
incel.
girls and how the girls like he would expect people to come talk to him instead of him.
Oh, his dad though had to ask people to hang out with him.
Elliot Rogers or Brian? Because I know
Bryan
Brian's dad
Kohberger.
did. Yes.
So what does that tell you, that if he needed his dad to find him friends?
So I that you want to know what that says to me psychologically that that was his dad's anxiety and not Brian's anxiety. I think that Brian, if I'm correct, I think he has schizotypal traits, which means that he is a loner by choice, and that would be totally different. So, and think about it, right? If I'm a very friendly person, so if my kid didn't have friends and stuff, I might see myself like on moving day being like, "Will you look out for her?" Like not realizing because for me it feels uncomfortable because I'm sociable. But if you're
Hmm.
somebody who doesn't need that socialization and would rather be a loner, then it doesn't really bother you not to have friends because it's by choice.
Yeah, I don't have very many I don't go out anymore. You know, I used to go out a lot. Like, I used to go out too much. You know, I used to tell people, if you wanted to find me, you'll find me in a hole in the wall bar on a Tuesday night. If there's karaoke, and you'll find me there. You'll find
I
me
love
there.
karaoke.
Yeah, me too. And you know, I used to go to a place called it's no longer there anymore, so you won't find me there. I don't go anymore. So for the stalkers slash the trolls, or the pro burgers that are trying to find me, like that one guy. Well, anyways, it was a place called Cooter Brown's out here in San Antonio, Texas. It's on the west side, and it's a country bar. And on Tuesday nights, they used to do karaoke. I was really good friends with the karaoke DJ guy there. And I'd tell people, if you wanted to find me, that's where you'll find me. You'll find me there Tuesday night. And there was another hole in the wall that I used to go to. It was literally a little country bar that was in the middle of an RV park. Now, this RV park wasn't the RV park that you find like along the coast where there's a bunch of boats and stuff. This was like, you know, an RV park. And you know, I loved it. You know, I loved the people there. You know, it was a great time. I love the music, the genres, everything, just the scene.
I love music.
Yeah, that's who I am. So if you all ever wanted to find me, that's where you'll find me. But
Fun
where
fact about me, I've never been drunk in my life, but I sing. And I love to sing Patsy Cline. So there you go. Can you believe I've never been drunk? Whenever we go somewhere, people are like, can I get you something to drink? And I'm always like, no, I don't drink. I'll have like a Pepsi. And they're always like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, I'm not like sober. I don't know why. I think because my dad like bribed me with the car. He would be like, the first time I smell
hmm,
one little thing, like I take that car back. And I believed him. So I just never got into it. And then I got older and I took like a sip and I was like, oh, and then that was it. So I'm
yeah,
boring, unfortunately. But I'll go
I
karaoke.
I used to have to drink to do the karaoke thing. Like I had to get that liquid courage up, because if not, I was it was not working for me. You know, I was get too nervous. But now I can do it now, so to speak, without drinking or anything. I don't really drink too much anymore, to be honest
Do
with
you
you.
like to do you like to sing?
I do love to sing. I used to be in a band. I
Oh,
was the
really? I didn't.
yeah, I was the singer in the
Yeah.
band. I was in a band. I was a singer. I played a little bit of acoustic guitar, a little bit of lead, a little bit of bass. Not so much since my hand thing happened. I hope I can get back into it, but I can't guarantee it. Um,
I love to sing too.
what kind of genre do you sing to?
Anything, but I'm big like oh, what's my favorite thing to sing? At Last by Etta James is my favorite, but I love to sing Patsy Cline. I sing anything Patsy Cline. I actually sang at the Academy of Music when I was 15 years old. So I used to sing like opera-based stuff, but now I'm a lot more. I'm not as like high, pitch, but I'll do like Patsy Cline and stuff like that. I sing anything, Daniel. I'll sing the Roots. I'll sing it all.
That
I
is
love to
awesome.
sing.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of things in my life. Like I've traveled, I've been an officer, I was in a band, I've been a DJ, I've done a lot of things. I've owned businesses, properties, rent them out, the whole nine yards. Um, I started off in music, so I was a bouncer. This was my first, not my first job, but one of my first jobs. I became a bouncer at a bar, and I was like, I don't know, maybe like 19 at the time. And my buddy, who would be one of my best friends, came in and he was the DJ. And the first time I met him, me and him almost went to fisticuffs, because my boss told me, you ID everybody, no matter how old they look, you ID them. And he walked in, I asked for his ID, he told me to F off. And I said, what? And I was like, nah, you're gonna give me your ID, bro. And it was
Did you
crazy.
get the
But
ID?
no, Jeremiah, one of the guys that had hired me, had ran over because he saw it. He's like, oh, he works here. He's just a prick. Don't worry about him. And me and him had the same name. His name's Daniel. And then afterwards he came up to me. He's like, I'm just giving you a hard time. Well, he ended up teaching me a bunch of things. He taught me how to DJ. He taught me how to karaoke, VJ, or KJ, those type of things. And man, it was just something that I always loved to do. But that's where
All
you
right. Well,
used to be able to
if
find
I
me.
ever get myself to Texas, we're gonna go to a karaoke bar and I'll have a drink too. How about that?
There you go. There you go. My wife, she can DD. She don't, well, My wife will drink one drink and then she'll do one shot of something called green tea. I don't know if it's up there in the Pennsylvania area, but it's prevalent down here. She does a green tea
Okay.
shot, and it's okay. It's all right. I like uh, it's a shot. I guarantee it. It's called Mexican candy. Some people call Mexican candy a different. It's a different thing in different places. But in where I go, where I go to, Mexican candy is a shot, and that one it is amazing. It is sneaky though. It because it tastes really really good, and you don't really taste the alcohol, and so you'll have like 2, 3, 4. Next thing you know, you're loaded, and so
That's what I'll need. So maybe we do need her as the
the DD.
designated driver. For sure. That would be
Maniac.
amazing.
Maniac comes in as if found guilty, there's allegedly a green light on him at both ISP and ISCC already. Only facility depends on the sentence. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they've already made some sort of arrangements already. Let's see.
Wait, what did that mean? That they already had a green light on them.
That they are those are two different facilities that they can house him at.
Oh, gotcha.
I think one of them is
gotcha.
one of them is a state prison, and I think the other one is like a maximum prison. So it just kind of depends on what the sentence is, if he goes to death row or not. Sam says, any recordings of your band we can hear? Actually, there is. I'll have to bring it up. Maybe I'll do it for a members only. I had a song
I
I
was
wrote.
just going to say you should do a members only with it.
I might be doing that for the members only. I've written a lot of songs. The song that I have recorded is a song called Whiskey Girl. And I have another one that I've written called, oh gosh, it's escaping me. I got one called Drunk in Mexico that I wrote that I really like. I got Whiskey Girl. I have, and I can, what the hell does it go?
Oh,
Beer stained paper. There you go. I remember it now. And that's the one that I can play. Well, not anymore, but that one's the one I could play very easy. And I had another one called, I had another one, Breath of Life. I think I had that one was pretty cool. I'd gotten really interested into like picking and stuff with that one, and I was playing each note differently. I was picking the notes versus strumming it on that one, and so that's why I like the way that one sounds. I don't know if I'll be able to do that one again.
Are you a perfectionist?
I am.
I could tell.
There's
nothing wrong with that. I am too.
I am. I am a perfectionist. I cannot. That's why I don't have like I had like recordings of me, but I never liked the way I sound. Yeah, everybody would tell me, "Oh, you sound great," this, that, or whatever. Yeah, I just don't like the way it sounds. Never liked the way it sounds, no matter what. I mean, I've never liked anything that I've done.
It's funny you say that because I think about that too. But I'm like, if so many other people tell you that you're good, like it's not like your family saying like, "Oh, Daniel, you're so like that's good," or like Jamie, that's a great. But if multiple people at different places tell you that you're good, then it must sound better than it sounds to us when we hear it.
I hope so.
It has to. It has to.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
Send
no,
me a
but
piece, and I promise I'll delete it afterwards, and I'll tell you.
yeah. No, I was a better writer than I was anything other than anything else. So like for instance, my song Whiskey Girl. The way that song goes is I got an old number 7, which is it's a Jack Daniels of whiskey. I got an old number 7 stacked up real tall, and this green-eyed cutie let it fall like a cleansing rain to wash away my pain. And the music's turned up way too loud, but her pretty little face is drowning out the sound. Her music's making me drift away, and those long white lines are getting a little blurred. I'm doing everything to hit the curve. But this whiskey girl is driving me insane. And that's just basically the first verse. I'm not singing it, guys. I'm just gonna talk it out.
No, that's good though. That's good.
Another one that I had that I really liked was beer golf and barbecue. And the pre-chorus to that was a night pretending to be on tour. We were up all night the night before, getting drunk and sick as hell. It's time for that remedy that works real well, and it's beer, golf, and barbecue. That's what I like to do. Something like that. These are all like I wrote this in my early 20s.
Wow.
And so yeah, that was one of the songs that I had written. Lost in Austin. That one was We Got Lost in Austin. I got lost in Austin. Wanted to play my favorite tune. It paid us less than it cost us to wait. No. Oh man, that one was one of the ones that I really liked. I could never play it on the guitar. My buddy Stoney, he was the guy that was killer on the guitar, and he had this little like rock riff that went with Lost in Austin. Got lost in Austin. I wanted to sing my favorite tune. See, I just remember this one part that goes, "My money, my time, my mind, I might have lost them. They all stayed with you." And there was something else that goes along with that as well. But I got to go back and look for it.
I love that. People don't realize how hard it is to write music. That's a
Yeah,
whole different skill.
it is. It is. It is. And it's
Because it's
something I
not just
enjoy.
like rhyming. It's like it's more than that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, it's one thing just to kind of say exactly what I'm saying, but I mean, if I were to sing it and then like play it with my guitar, the riffs that I've come up with that goes along with it, that fills it in, it makes it completely different. Um,
Now I want to hear
Simpson
it,
says
Daniel. I
can't go to
love music.
Austin anymore. Yeah, you know what? I'll ask my buddy Robert. I have a friend of mine who has a band, and I've been meaning to ask him. I was like, hey, because you guys let me know in the comment section if I get a band going, would you guys listen to it? Like, I
Okay.
got a buddy of mine who has a band. I haven't played in a long time. I was thinking about, saying, hey, we do something, and maybe I can get some people to tune into it. I don't know. Maybe you guys would be interested in it. If you guys are, let me know in the comment section.
Yep.
Um,
And then we could do like a little karaoke night too. There you go.
yeah, that's gonna be privated and nobody's gonna hear it. And
That's going to be me, you, your wife, and my husband. That's it. There you go.
yeah, well, unfortunately, you won't find me at any more karaoke bars, but you'll find me here, and you'll find me here again on Tuesday night. I'll probably do a members only this weekend. Where else can they find you? Obviously here at YouTube, but is there anywhere else if anybody wanted to get in contact with you? I know you put out your email earlier. Is there like a Twitter or anything that anybody can find yet?
So this is the thing, you guys. So during the semester, for anybody who goes to college, but during the semester, I literally work like 70 or 80 hours a week, and that's where I'm at now. But in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I'm done the semester, and then I get real bored real quick. So that's when I'll start to like, I never expected for people to even like to hear what I had to say. So I really was going to start this YouTube journey after the semester, but then I wound up talking and people wanted to hear more, and now here I am today. But so I think once, things slow down for me a little bit more, I'll be able to get a Twitter. I don't even have a Twitter, you guys. So I need to like expand a little bit, but you can email me if you want at jamievona.gmail or at Gmail rather. And it's JAIME at Gmail. Or please, please, please go to my page. I'm close to 1,000. I think the drunk turkey audience, you guys are amazing, and that would be great if you got me a little bit closer. That
Yes,
would be
yes,
pretty cool.
we definitely can do that. And I just saw something, and I want to say thank you so much, uh-huh, to King Scarlet, because she's the one that threw this out there. Let me pull it up real quick before I let everybody go. And a lot of people are probably missing this, but when it comes to the timing advance records, this was from August 8th, folks, before the trial. So this record of the advanced timing records that was just released about this motion to seal, this was before the hearing, before Ann Taylor figured out the 7 days. Thank you so much, King Scarlet, for letting me know that. And
It's good to know.
it is. So everybody go check out Dr. Vona on her channel. Let's get her there. Let's get her to the subscribers that she needs. I need to come on your channel. We got to set that up.
I know. I'm like afraid to do it before I have too many people. I don't want you to come over and have like 30 or 40 people there. So I don't know.
No, it's okay. It's okay. The what we're gonna do is
I'm
well,
good
we'll
with being a panelist for a little bit.
yeah. No, what we'll do is I'll do a live, and then what we'll do is we'll end the live and we'll go over to your channel. And so that way, if everybody wants to continue to watching, they have to go to your channel to watch.
Well, there you go. Look, Daniel, you just are like the man of like 1,000 things. You could sing, you could write. That was a great idea. I never even thought to do that. I
I'm a
thank you. Can I just thank you and thank your your wife and everything for a lot of people. I do my master's and my specialization is in marriage and family therapy. And unfortunately, there's so many people out there that don't allow their significant other to flourish or to help others and stuff. I am so grateful that she is not like that and that she is all about you helping others. And I promise you that I will pay it forward as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you to you, to her, to all of your mods and your whole community for welcoming me. I could not be here obviously without you guys, so I appreciate you, and I'll come back whenever you'd like.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I plan on having you more often and frequently, just to, I like to have an expert's opinion on things. And I think, and I value yours. And I think
I
you're an expert.
appreciate that.
And so, yes, 100%. And when it comes to my wife, I mean, she's amazing. I couldn't be more happier that I found her and that she chose me because at the end of the day, I have more than just Rogan. Everybody knows little Rogan, but I have two other daughters that are older from a prior relationship. And, one of the things that I've talked to like my children about is one of the things that I'm really happy about when it comes to my marriage with my wife is that the trust is there 100%. Like I go to Pittsburgh often. I go by myself, and I don't get any flack or anything. And, she's amazing.
That's how my husband is too, and I think that you need to be that way. I don't know that I'd be a doctor and stuff without him. Like there was a few times that I was like, I can't do this, and he was like, yes, you can. Like you got this. So I do think that there's something special, and if anybody else has that in their life, appreciate it for what it is, right? And if you don't have that and you want that, just know that you can have that. You just have to learn to love yourself enough to know that you're worth having somebody that'll do that for you.
That's so true. Like before I met my wife, I was single for about 8 years. 8 years. I didn't want to be with anybody. And I'll be honest with you. When I met with my wife, she kind of like, I met her and she moved in and she never left. My intentions wasn't to settle down. I had no intentions on settling down and I met my wife and she settled me down. That's what she did. She settled me down.
That's how you know you're with the right person. That's how you know you're with the right person.
Exactly. Well, I want to
thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. 100%. I want to thank you for joining. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Get your Idaho House Bill 37 t-shirt, your official one at Bonfire. It's in the description. It's in the comments. I'm going to start right now. Until next time, guys, I'll be back this weekend on a members only. Maybe I'll sing a tune.